We are live.
Okay, thank you, Mike at LTV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of November 17th, 2020. We have a full agenda as usual this evening. We have two public hearings and then quite a few determinations and administrative applications, etc. So we'll get right to it. With our first public hearing this evening, the applicants are Louise Fisher and Philip Bruno. Size and lot location is 28,492 square feet at 116 Old West Lake Drive in Montauk, tax map number 300-20-5-9. The description here is to allow and to construct 945 linear feet of fencing, 2 pillars, and a driveway gate, 3 square foot addition to the existing pool enclosure, and a 20 square foot grill within jurisdiction and setbacks of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to section 255-4-20 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of 100 feet, 30 feet, and 1 foot are required from section 255-4-30 of the Town Code to allow existing and construct fencing 0 feet, and to construct pillars and a gate 70 feet, and the pool enclosure 99 feet respectively from freshwater wetlands, where 100-foot setbacks are required, and any other relief necessary. This is in an A2 zoning district, and the flood zone here is X, and the secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
I have an affidavit that the mailing and the postings were done on the 6th of November, so the paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is in the Montauk district. It's overseen by board members Berger and Johan. Terry, which one of you all took care of this?
I am, John.
Okay, Ed, thank you.
Okay. We'll go right to the photos. I've got quite a few. We'll go through quickly as we can. This is the sign posting at the curb. This is looking west down Old West Lake Drive. A portion of the wetlands across the way from the property are visible in this. Next, please. Here's looking east. You see a couple of other driveways, and we can see that in that direction. Next. This is the approximate location here. You can see coming in, they've got some pavers give way to a gravel. It's approximate location of where they're looking to install this gate at the front, the 2 pillars and the gate at the driveway. Next. This is you're looking along the house now along the east side of the property, and we see a gate there. That gate terminates the 6-foot gate that runs out towards north towards the lake. To the right, you'll see a 4x4 post that indicates the corner of where this 6-foot fence exists. Next. You can see that a little closer now, and if you look along that line, you'll see a number of in-between posts that are set. That's a 6-foot fence that comes out there off of the property. This is the east side of the property, and we're looking out towards the lake. You can see beyond. Next. This is on the opposite side of the house. This is the gate that borders, again, the 6-foot fence. This is on the west side. It's closer to the property line. And you can see this is about approximately where it all stops now, where the 6-foot fence stops. Next, please. We're looking down along that line on the west side. Now, some arborvitae are planted alongside the house as a protection from a neighbor, but you can clearly see the fence beyond that 4x4 post and some other fencing. Next. Here's the fencing as it continues to run out. The neighbor has a building there, concrete block building, but you can see the 6-foot fence, and it's running down towards what you can see in the distance is the wetlands. Next, please. We're getting closer now. Here's the fence, and you can see Phragmites growing up at a pretty good height. We're plunging into the edge on the western edge of the property, right through the wetlands here, as the fence continues. Next. Is a little bit closer. It's basically the same shot, but I wanted to get an indication of just how tight the fence is here with the wetlands and passing through. As you can see, the most of the growth. Next. This is on the opposite side of the property now. This is the 6-foot fence working its way from the house on the east side of the property, working down along. You see the lake beyond. What the fence is made of 4x4s intermittently with pipes in between. All of it's at least 6 foot in height, however. Next. This is a gate that is set at the northern limits of the 6-foot fence. This gate opens up to, as you can see, the lake beyond into a re-vegged area. And immediately to the west of this, basically the left of the photo, is wetlands. Next. This is looking back at the gate from the opposite side, and you can see here how the gate and the fence that continues on to the right of the photo is pressed right up against the wetlands. That's a depression that's in behind there. There's a raised area that comes down to the gate that was previously approved, but that wetlands, you can see that how close the fence is to it right there. Next, please. The area that they're proposing to extend the fence would now go from where I was just standing at the gate, now looking back down towards the lake. And this would be the east side of it. You can see that this is basically along the property line, and this is the area they proposed to continue the 6-foot fence. Next. This is the fence looking back across now, where you can see how it comes right across the face of the. This is standing west, looking east. Next, please. This is on the west side of the property, down towards the lake. This was also the area where they proposed to continue this fence down to the tidal wetland that's on the edge of the lake. Next. This is a re-vegged area that was, I guess, mandated from the original permit. And I'm standing beyond where they've now extended the gate and looking out at the pond. This area is fairly extensive, and the re-veg, you can see what the condition of it is as it sits right now. Next. This is where the proposed gate of the future fence would be. There are 2 stakes. There's some other items lying on the ground, but 2 stakes. One of them closest to us is a 10-foot offset stake. Another one, which is a little harder to see, that's a little further away, is approximately the line of the fence itself. So the fence would cut across from our right to our left, basically hard up against the tidal wetlands. Next. This is the path it would follow then from the gate looking west, the tidal wetlands directly to our right. Next. I just wanted to come back here. We can see the house in the distance. We see the gate. You see the wetlands behind. You see the fence. This is the condition that's going to be a primary discussion, I think. Next. There's also the item of this small patio deck, which covers a vault. You can see, if you look closely, in the middle of the left-hand side of that, there's a hatchway that leads down to pool equipment below. This is a lawn area that surrounds it that's in close proximity to the house. Next. This is looking back now from the house, and the house is to my left and to my rear. We can see the pool. You can see the small deck that I just highlighted. And we see a re-vegged area that extends from the disturbed, where the house has been built, down to the wetlands. This is an area that extends from the grass lawn area to the wetlands, about approximately 50 feet. So there's 50 feet of re-vegged area there, pretty much from where there's an improved portion of lawn down to where the wetlands exist. That's what I have.
Excellent, Ed. Thank you. That's a very thorough field report. You would have thought you've been doing this for decades. Thank you very much. Board members, any questions for Ed?
No.
Okay. We will hear from the applicant or the agent, Laurie, I believe.
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
We can. Good evening, Laurie.
Hi there.
I'll go ahead and swear you in. Laurie, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Excellent.
And I'd also like to mention that my clients, Louise Fisher and Philip Bruno, are on the phone with us. I think Louise would like to introduce herself and them to you first, and then I will read my presentation into the record.
Okay, and if she's going to speak and is not an attorney, I will swear them in as well if they're going to speak. I mean, besides saying hello.
I think they're both going to speak, so you might as well
Okay.
swear them in.
Okay, are they on camera there? Or are they?
Chair,
Oh,
this
they're
is
on the
Mike.
phone.
Yeah, Chair, this is Mike at LTV. I'll unmute the first caller I have right now.
Maybe you can unmute both if it's, or maybe they're on the same call.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're both in the same room together. Yeah. Hi,
Okay,
everyone.
okay. Good evening. Good evening to you. I will swear you in if you are not attorneys, okay?
Yes,
Do you swear, if you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
we do.
We do.
Great. Okay, Lori, go ahead or,
But I believe Phil's family actually in 50s and looking for a long time, the surroundings and the piece of the journey of acquiring this property and building and making the decision to renovate. It has always been our intent to preserve the beauty and the tranquility of the lake location. It has never ever been our intent to harm anything. We do believe personally that we built a home that's very suitable in style and size for that property. So I just kind of wanted to make that statement and give you a little bit more background about us before we get into more of the details. Thank you.
Yep. So what's important for the board to remember, because not all of you were on the board at the time of the original decision, is this was the former property of Jimmy Hewitt, and the house was all the way down in front of the lake. So the Fishers, with very wise planning, moved the house back away from the lake and restored the area where the former house was. What's important to know is that when the Hewitts had the house down by the lake, they also had a barn and a horse paddy, and the wetlands were actually the pond for the horse. And Phil has sent us some pictures, which I don't know if you can see me. I can't see me, but Phil has sent us some pictures where you can actually see remnants of the old horse. There we go. You can see remnants of the fence that was part of the horse paddy. Yes, right there. So the concept of moving the house back was always with the, obviously wanting to maintain the view. That's what they bought. They bought a house on the water with a beautiful view. And by moving it back and going uphill, you maintain the beautiful view. The problem is they have a deer infestation because the deer actually considered this their home for all the many years that they were going through the permit process and no one was living on the property. And if we were to move the fence back, it's going to be in their view shed, which is contrary to the whole purpose of what their original project was, to move the house up and still have the view. So I have a written response to the technical assessment memo, which I've already submitted to the board. I've not had a response on it, so I'm going to go ahead and read that into the record. The technical assessment memo is supportive of most of the...
Lori?
Yes?
What?
You've already submitted it. You don't need to read it.
Well, my concern is that we're now holding these public hearings open for 30 days afterwards for written public comment. The public has not seen this memorandum.
It has
So-
been posted on the website.
yeah,
It's been
Lori,
posted.
and remember, Lori, you have a few minutes here and the applicants have a few minutes. So, yeah, it's not required to read that. We have all read it already. The board has.
Okay. All right. So then you know that my clients and their dog have had Lyme disease
Yeah.
because of the tick infestation.
Yep,
They
and
put
you had the
the deer
doctor's
fence up.
receipts and all that. We saw all
Yep.
that.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And that I think Philip's going to talk more to this, but they're very hesitant to use chemicals with their children and their dogs. So that's not really an alternative for them.
Mhm.
In fact, I think Philip can explain to you what those black tarps are. I think he uses them to kill weeds. The fence was installed in a way that it didn't cause any environmental damage. These poles get banged into the ground. They're not digging and putting concrete. That's not what they're going to do. By the way, I think that someone said that the proposed deer fence was going to continue down to the lake. That's a proposed 4-foot fence. It's not a proposed 6-foot fence. And that's also to help keep the deer out, because the place where they want to put that fence is going to be back 10 feet from the wetlands so that it's up on a ledge, which effectively is about 18 inches high, which effectively makes that 4-foot fence 5.5 feet fence, which keeps the deer out of the revegetated area. And it's because of this deer browse that they don't want to do more revegetation. They spent so much money on this and the deer just keep eating it and eating it. So they need to do something to protect what's still there. The posts and gates and everything are not treated wood. There's nothing that's leaching into the wetlands. And I think I covered most of this just in a summary. So I know Philip wanted to say a few things to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
And Lori, I think you covered a lot of it. I mean, the reason why we put up the deer fence already is because of the tick infestation, and we actually don't use and never plan to or haven't used any type of chemical pesticide or anything like that. And part of the reason was, we've even moved the not just the home, but the septic system was 15 to 20 yards from the lake, and we've now moved that up to the road. We even eat some of the shellfish that are in the lake, and don't want to do that. The property fence that would be down towards the lake, as Laurie's saying, we would run it down the north and south side of the property on our neighbors near the property line. We would not go near the lake and would near the tidal wetlands. There is a 12 to 18 inch ridge, as Laurie was saying, and we would locate the fence at the top of the ridge. So the 4-foot fence would be somewhere like a 5 or 5.5 foot type of deer fence, and that would hopefully stop the grazing that has been going on the area where the former home was located. And that's what we're trying to do. Again, for that 4-foot fence, it would be a modest one. We would use non-toxic metal posts. There would be no wood posts. There would be no need for it because it would only be 4 feet, and it would be a normal gate down by the water area. And that's what we were at least proposing.
And the other thing I should point out is that, the code is very strict on these deer fencing applications. You can only fence in 50% of your property. And that's what they've basically achieved here by starting it on the sides of the house and running it down around that wetland. They've achieved the 50% that's permitted. So there's not really another way to do this without putting the deer fence right in front of their view.
Lori, or is there any scientific evidence that you're going to submit that will say that this will eliminate your tick exposure?
I could certainly get something to that effect if you would like it in the record. Sure.
Your case is built on that, and I just want to know, if you're going to make the statement that this fence is going to eliminate tick exposure, I think that should be a consideration for this board.
I would say leave the record open and we will certainly have that addressed. I think it's a great idea, Roy. I think that this issue with deer fencing and wetlands and ticks is going to come up over and over again because it's really such a problem in this town. So I agree with you that something scientific.
Just make sure that scientific report takes into account the wind. My guess is it's not going to be that effective. But go ahead.
Oh no, I just didn't know that ticks were windborne. That's funny.
The wind, that's how they travel.
Oh, I thought you had to wipe up against a branch or something. Anyway, I'm not the scientist and it's not going to be coming from me. I will get you something for the record.
Okay, thank you. Ed, any questions from you out in Montauk or Terry or other board members or comments?
Well, part of the natural resources, the protection of wetlands and natural resources is also to help the wildlife habitat. And effectively, what I see here is, you're looking for 100% variance for a tidal wetland right on Lake Montauk. The fencing would be just about in the water. And the way they have the fencing between the 4-foot toward the old Westlake Drive side and down by the lake, effectively they're cutting off. They would be cutting off entirely, like the facility for wildlife to go across there, in an easterly to westerly direction. And
well, we are setting that 4-foot fence back by 10 feet. And there is not a fence in the front of the property. So they're not cut off entirely. However, you have to remember that this entire property was disturbed and has been revegetated, and the deer are eating the plants. So if the board's going to want us to do revegetation, we've got to be able to protect it. Otherwise, these clients are just throwing money into the wind. It's really, it's a problem. It is a problem.
Well, it's a problem too for the habitats of the flora and the fauna, and then the wildlife ends up having to go across Old Westlake Drive to the other wetlands where there are extensive wetlands, but this is their habitat.
So they have the 10 feet down by the lake, and most of the fencing on either side is going to be 4 feet. It's not going to be the 5 feet that's on the water side. Deer have no problem with a 4-foot fence. That's not a big deal. If they really want in, they're going to go in. And it's certainly not going to stop the birds. It's not going to stop the squirrels. It's not going to stop but what would be really detrimental is not having fencing and spraying instead. I mean, I know that can't happen in a scenic easement, but if the other stuff could be protected by spray, and that's not good for the wildlife either.
Well, you're also assuming that ticks come in only on deer, which is not true either.
Well, I'm certainly going to get someone with scientific background to get something for the record. I do think that's a good idea.
And Lori, we have a ZBA determination in 2016, which this board will definitely give deference to. Can you try to expound what has changed from 2016 and why this fence should be, what has changed to go beyond the scrutiny of the board in 2016?
So I'm not sure I understand your question. There were a couple of things that were built that didn't meet the wetland setback, a corner of the pool equipment enclosure, deck thing, an outdoor kitchen area. These things are part of this application. There were columns and gates at the driveway, but they didn't meet setbacks and they had never been approved by anybody. So my clients actually removed those and they would like permission to put them back up. And then the fencing, as you know, we've just discussed, is about the deer, predominantly about the deer. And it became, an emergency to my clients because they were getting sick.
How much of the
Go ahead, Terry. Go ahead, Terry.
how much of the fencing was approved on that 2016 application? Can you?
I don't think any. That's why we're before you for fencing.
Yeah. So
I'm looking at it. Hang on one second. I'm looking at that decision.
Well, Lori, while you look, I'm going to say something. I'd like you to address the columns for one thing, and also we will hear from the planning department, and Tyler will discuss the re-veg, and also that as we know, the planning department is recommending species that are not appealing to the deer. So Tyler will discuss that as well, I hope. But let's address some of these other things so we touch on them.
There was no fencing in the original decision.
There was no fencing?
No.
Good, okay, so that's good to know for the record. I thought there wasn't.
But there was a pool, correct?
No, there was not a pool. There was
there was a pool.
There was a pool?
No, we're talking, I think we're confused. Roy is talking about I believe Roy is talking about the former approval, what was approved in the big approval where the house was taken down and there was a pool, a new house, a new pool,
Right.
and no fencing down to the water.
Just the pool fencing.
Yes, and that's the important thing. So let's talk about the columns now. Let's get away from the fencing for a bit. Go ahead, Laurie.
These are just driveway columns. The columns on the side of the gate for a driveway.
Right. And
but there's wetlands across the street, so we have to get relief.
And is there any issue with the setbacks on these columns?
No, not at all. We're not asking for setback relief because there's no setback.
Something about a setback, an accessory. I thought you said there was something about a setback.
They were previously sitting in the right of way.
Oh, well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, the columns were located in the bridle path. They were put up by the former owners, by the Hewitts.
Right.
We actually initially we left them because the building department said that they were old Montauk style and they wanted them to stay. They were actually too narrow for the fire code.
Right.
We did leave them, and then when we came in for the C of O, they said they were in the wrong spot, so we actually removed them. and we would like to build them back, but in the right location that is on the property.
And you'd maintain the 14-foot fire code width, I imagine.
We would,
Correct?
yes, we would put them, now we would put them to code. Before they were too tall, so we would have them shorter to match the right building code for the current period.
Right, understood. Okay. Let's move along to the planning department now. Tyler, if you please. Mike, do you have Tyler on there? Mike from LTV, is Tyler on board with us?
I am double checking. Looks like
Do we not have Tyler?
he's
Oh,
there.
I see Tyler, but no, Tyler's muted. Maybe he's coming on now.
No, he's not muted.
Oh,
There you are. You there, Tyler?
okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good.
Good evening, Tyler.
Good evening. Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department.
Tyler, I'll go ahead and swear you in to
Sure.
take care of that. Tyler, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great.
I'm going to switch actually to an older survey that they had submitted. It's a little bit easier to read this one. Just note that
Great.
the fencing will no longer come all the way down to the water. It'll be set back slightly on the water side over there.
Got
But
it.
it is a little bit easier to read with the color.
Yep.
So this application is in order to allow an existing fencing and construct new fencing around the perimeter of the property, to construct pillars and a gate at the driveway, and a small addition to the existing pool enclosure, all within jurisdiction and setbacks to wetlands, and to construct a grill within jurisdiction of wetlands. The subject parcel is located at the lake on the Lake Montauk side of Old Westlake Drive. The property is very constrained with significant wetlands nearly bisecting the property across the center, tidal wetlands of Lake Montauk on the northeast side, and the Stepping Stones Pond wetland across the street as well to the southwest. These wetlands provide the same benefits of other high-quality wetlands within the Montauk area. The wetlands are contiguous to Lake Montauk and are highly diverse with species of woody and herbaceous plants. They constitute an integral part of the natural environment, and more specifically, the hydraulic system. In addition to diversifying the landscape, they play a significant role in the storage of water, flood control, and the maintenance of water quality prior to recharge into Lake Montauk. The wetlands also provide important habitat for a variety of wildlife species. Overall, aside from the proposed fencing, the project is fairly minimal work with no significant impacts on wetlands. The proposed pillars and gate are across the street from wetlands, and the small addition to the pool enclosure is minimal and a very minor change to the existing enclosure. The proposed grill is located over an existing approved patio and should have no additional impacts that are not already associated with that patio. The only aspect of this application that the planning department is concerned with is the proposed fencing that encloses the property. While fencing in some of the areas on this property would be understandable, running the fencing along the northwest side of the wetlands in the middle of the property and along the edge of the tidal wetlands of Lake Montauk do not appear to be necessary or meet the variance and NRSP standards. It is the planning department's opinion that the fencing should be relocated to a minimum of 50 feet from the edge of wetlands. While impacts from the fencing are not significant generally, digging and placing any structures in such close proximity to wetlands when there are reasonable alternative locations goes against the board's past practices. Fences are an impediment to movement of terrestrial wildlife, which are especially important in areas surrounding wetlands. Allowing a buffer around the wetland would help to limit the impacts on wildlife and the wetlands themselves. The board's determination in 2016 approved a project which removed all of the structures on the northern side of the parcel and relocated to the southern side while still meeting the wetland setbacks. Constructing fencing along the north side of the wetlands and directly adjacent to the edge of wetlands would be counter to the board's previous approval. It is the planning department's opinion that if the fencing was relocated to a more suitable area on the property, rather than up against the edge of wetlands, the application would be significantly more appropriate for approval by the ZBA. In its current proposed location, the fencing would cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, could be achieved by other feasible methods, such as simply relocating to a more landward location. The variance is substantial, and the fence would have an adverse impact on the environmental conditions on the property. As far as the revegetation is concerned, that was completed as part of that 2016 application. And overall, it looks to be in okay shape, especially the bayberry. Bayberry seems to have not been browsed terribly by deer. Some of the other stuff has been, but bayberry is one of the more deer-resistant plants, which is why we generally suggest it. And it seems to be doing fairly well, as well as some of the grasses that are mixed in as well. But if the board wanted to see additional revegetation, as part of an approval on this application, I would certainly suggest additional bayberry, since it seems to be doing okay in the area.
Okay, Tyler, since there are multiple wetlands, can you show us on the survey where you're proposing the 50-foot?
Sure. Roughly, since it's approximately 100 feet between the pool enclosure deck thing here and the edge of wetlands, so 50 feet would be somewhere in the middle here. So something like coming across here and then going around the property like that, essentially enclosing the usable space of the property.
And in the yard that already exists.
Right, in the yard that already exists, yeah. And sort of letting the rest be a naturalized area of the parcel.
Okay, so how do you feel about letting the babe that are there and the other grasses that are there kind of naturalize without more revegetation?
I think over time that it should do fine. Obviously, there's always a concern about invasives, but that's true for any revegetation in town. There's always a concern that invasives are going to come in. Once you clear an area, there's a chance that invasives are going to have take a foothold. But that being said, it seems to be doing okay. So they've only been there for 6 months or so, I think, something along those, maybe over a year now. I can't remember when I went to do a CO inspection, but they seem to be doing okay.
So Tyler, that was my question. Thanks to follow up on Terry. So if the board agreed with you and we wanted the fence located as you suggest, tell me if it's correct that they have been signed off on their re-veg qualifications. And the reason I'm mentioning this is if the natural things continue to grow that the deer don't eat. I guess what I'm asking, are they compelled to do any more re-veg because of the deer, just for the record?
No, they're not required to do any additional revegetation. As of now, everything that happened as part of the 2016 application is closed out and fine.
Great. I just wanted that as part of the record.
Sure.
Thank you, Tyler. And thanks for your work on this. Board members, any questions for Tyler? No? Okay. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up. Lori, a final comment from you? I'm sorry. Public, I forget.
Make sure we don't have anybody in the public.
Thanks, counsel. Mike, anyone in the public there?
We do actually have another caller on hold, which I will unmute if you would like.
It may be for the next application, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm unmuting that next caller right now. Hello, caller. You're live with the ZBA. Hello, caller. Their line is open, Chair. They could be on hold waiting for the next. If you'd like me to continue, we can mute them.
I guess they're not on for this, or they, okay, so they're the only one. There's no other callers?
The only other caller is the applicant who is still open and talking.
Great,
available.
okay, yes. Okay, thanks, Mike.
Chair,
Yes.
can I ask a clarification question?
Mhm.
Only because it will matter for the next step.
Sure.
Lori, on the pillars in the front, are you saying they're going to be built to code to 4 feet as a matter of right, or are you going to go to ZBA?
You mean ARB?
I mean ARB for
Well,
for
that's
6 feet.
actually an interesting question, because this is a waterfront lot that's not an oceanfront lot, so the front
It
yard
doesn't
is
matter. It's a yard fronting a public road, so you still have to get permission.
Okay, I don't know
for
the answer
anything
to
over
that.
6 feet. Yeah, what is the height of the pillars?
I don't know, because they were taken down. I hadn't measured them.
Okay,
Phil,
just so
can
you know that yes,
The
it is not a
pillars,
front yard.
the old pillars were 7.5 feet.
Yeah.
They were taken down. They're gone. Yeah.
Okay.
What height do
So-
you intend to replace them with?
I believe the code was 6 foot, and that's what we were intending.
So you'd have to go back to the ARB for that, you know that.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
just so we're
Just
clear.
was seeing if you were looking for a
Height
more than
relief.
6 feet, because
No.
then you would be back here in front of ZBA, and I just wanted to save you a trip.
Right. I see Andy's getting on the call. I believe Andy's for the next application though, Mike.
Yes,
from
he is.
LTV.
Yeah.
So don't let that guy in. Anyway, okay, Lori, I think we'll wrap this up. Ed,
So I
would-
just wanted to say one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to wrap up, that it seems like the only potential issue with the board is the deer fencing. And I contend that removing it is actually going to be more detrimental to the wetlands, will create siltation. There's nothing off the fence itself that is actually going to harm the wetland. It's not going to leach. It's not going to rust. It's not going to, silt because it's solid and it's already been hammered into the ground. So I'm hoping that the board will go along with letting it remain. So thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And thank you to the applicants and to Tyler for his work on this. Ed, would you like to close us out here? And you know, I'm sure you know, Ed, how the written record stays open. Go ahead if you please, Ed.
Is it?
Do we have Ed on the board? Is Ed on the
Have
board?
it, Ed. Maybe that's why he was quiet.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't
no.
see that. Did we lose Ed?
Chair, it does look like he has left. If he comes right back, I'll obviously let him right back
I
in.
wonder what happened.
Yeah.
He might have lost his. You want me to close it out?
Yeah, sure. I think we can do, council, we can do that with, correct?
Yeah, yeah, and,
What?
can you get off of this hearing until we
Yeah,
call
how
you?
did- I think-
Can
Yeah,
you,
Ed and Joel
I'll
should
take
be,
care of that.
yeah, just turn
Yeah.
them off. Thank you.
I think, sorry,
You're in the wrong hearing.
you're in the wrong here.
Thank you. One at a time here.
Okay. So we do not
Okay,
have.
we're ready? Okay.
Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
we'll get Ed
All right.
back before the next hearing starts.
Yeah.
Laura, you have no objection to him not being part of the closing it out? You're
No,
okay?
I don't. Do you talk about all of us like this when we're not on?
Get out.
And even when you are on, sorry. Go ahead, Terry, if you please.
Okay,
Tim.
for the application of Louise Fisher and Philip Bruno at 116 Old Westlake Drive in Montauk, tax map 300-020-05-9. Make a motion to close the public hearing and to leave the written record open for all purposes until 2 weeks after the transcript of this hearing is posted on the town website.
Second.
Concur.
And for our scientific evidence.
Hold on, Laura.
Yeah, okay, add for your evidence.
Yeah, well,
See.
anything can be submitted. I concur as well, but for the record, anything can be submitted by the public or anyone else.
Right.
So go, okay, we're good then. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
Lori,
you.
it's not going to be left open longer until, it's not going to be, if that's when we're going to close. So get it in within the time frame, please.
I'm going to work on it right away.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay.
Okay,
Do you want me to give Ed a call? See what
yeah, I think so, because we'll need him for the next one.
All right, so I can go then, right?
Yes, you can. Good evening. Take care.
Have a great evening,
Yeah,
everyone.
Laurie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, we have, I see Joel Halsey. We're looking for Ed.
Chair,
Not
should I
back
bring Joel Halsey back in for the next one?
Let's
not yet.
try to get Ed
Let's
on
get Ed
first.
back first.
Okay.
Any luck, Terry? Oh, Terry's muted.
I guess you didn't hear all that. Yeah, his whole computer crashed and the internet connection went down. He's going to dial in via his phone and try the Zoom, I believe, through the phone so that
Okay.
he will have some visual. So let's give him a minute if you want. Or
Yeah.
He said he's on the process of coming in or trying to.
I think we need our own ZBA satellite or something like that that we can bounce off.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We
I
can-
think it's
Then we can
Kyle.
have a road show. We can
Yes.
go around all over the place.
Chair, I'm going to hide the video if you'd like of the feed that just popped up until Ed comes back as you wished, correct?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you may
just
see
a-
him coming in via
just-
phone.
That's
Mhm.
okay. So just for a moment, the feed coming from Joel Halsey will hide your video until the hearing begins.
No phone call coming in, huh?
No, I do still have that last person who wasn't available, which wouldn't be him, on hold pending potentially for this hearing, but there's no other callers.
Well, maybe we can just check that person. If they're not there, can you just shut that line down, Mike?
Well, I could, but I mean, if it
Yeah,
pertains.
please do that in case that's causing any difficulties, if you
No,
would.
that has nothing to do with it, Chair.
Okay,
It's
all right.
totally separate. In fact, if I disconnect them and they're waiting, they'll just call right back. I can open it up if you're curious to see what they're pertaining to, since we have
Sure, go ahead.
some time. All right, I'm going to unmute the phone caller calling in right now.
Yeah.
Hello, caller on hold. This is the ZBA. Are you there? Hello, caller. Again, their line is open and they could speak if they wished, but
Can you hear me?
yes. Who is this?
Yes.
This is Alex Bludorn, LaGuardia Design. I'm on hold for the next hearing.
Okay.
Okay, great. So we can keep you on hold until Chair asks for you. Is that
Yes.
all right?
Correct.
So, sir, I'm just
Yep.
going to mute you again, and I'll unmute you when you're called upon.
Yep. Okay.
Here comes Ed. Everybody.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Okay. Oh, we got Ed back in visual too. Good.
Yeah.
Let's let him get. Ed, can you hear us there?
He's on mute.
Yeah.
Ed, you're on mute.
Ed, you're mute.
I can.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay. You good, Ed?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Welcome back. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read in for the record the next hearing, and then I'm going to step away and let Vice Chair Deline take over because I'm going to be recusing myself from this next public hearing. But I will read in for the record. It is 80 Firestone Road LLC is the applicant, and the lot size and location is 48,478 square feet total at 80 Firestone Road in Montauk, tax map number 300-17-1-5. I'll stop here for a second. LTV, make sure that Andy Hammer is in on this right now, and as well
Yes.
the landscape architects. Okay,
I can
good.
see him. Hello.
Okay, just so we know, because we're starting here. Okay, the description here is to demolish 4 motel units and construct 4 new 600 square foot detached resort units, each with basements, 578 square feet patios, 668 square foot roof decks and hot tubs, and to construct a 4 by 36 foot staircase to the shoreline on a parcel of land containing coastal bluffs, beaches, tidal wetlands, and located within the town's jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to section 255-4-20 of the town code to construct a staircase down the bluff face, and variance from section 255-11-88. Additional rules for particular principal and accessory uses of the town code, and any other relief necessary to allow 4 separate resort units where all transient motel units are required to be located within multiple unit structures. The zoning district here is an RS Resort VE Velocity Flood Zone, elevation 12, and an X flood zone. And the secret class is unlisted. And I will go ahead, counsel, while you do, I'm going to be recusing myself again and ask Vice Chair Deline to take over. And counsel, I guess he or you can swear in the folks, correct?
Yes.
Counsel, great.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'll mute myself now. Thank you.
I'm leaving.
Council, do we have verification of service and posting?
Let's see.
We have an affidavit of mailing and posting on the 2nd day of November. So the paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay. And I think, Member Berger, are you in charge of this one?
Doing this one, yeah. Yes.
Okay, go for it.
And Brian has my photos. Right, Brian?
No, I never got any photos from you.
No, Tyler loaded them up for me yesterday when you weren't in the office.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Let me see where they are.
It
Thanks,
may
Tyler.
be in the,
There should be in the meeting folder. Sorry.
yeah, meeting folder.
There's Tyler. Tyler.
Now we lost Tyler.
I apologize. I didn't have that folder handy.
You do now. Yes?
Yeah, you can get it.
Some photos of my dog.
Oh, that's nice too.
All right. Thank you for your patience, board members.
Okay, here we are.
Okay.
This is the official notice and posting, and had a lot of rope and tape, but I give it credit because this was yesterday morning after the tornado and the winds the night before. So it held up well. And you can see in the background part of the 4 cottages, and we're going to be walking through there. Next. Now I turned slightly from out there so you could see the nearest neighbors, the house at the street, and then a couple of other houses, and that's the Montauk down in the distance. Next. And it's in the other direction, which is north. I always want to think it's east, but it's north. Another neighbor's house, and then you see, whoop. Okay, sorry. In between that end unit there that exists today, there was a lot of construction going on over there in that area. I don't know if it's another house being rebuilt or maybe, but anyway, next. Now this is shot again of the units that as they exist today. Then I'm going to walk to the other side of the units and take a shot. We're trying to get at least some of all of them in the shot. Next. Okay, these are out of order.
It's looking north.
That's across the road from the existing property today. Yeah, which would be west, yes. East, west, east, right. Okay, next. Okay, so here's the shot where I'm standing on the, here we go again. On the west end of the cottages, but you can get a glimpse of the way they're situated today. Each of them have little stairs, and there's a brick grill. There's another little brick grill out of the picture on the left side here. Next. And then I just turned from there and again took a shot down toward, again, so you could see the Montauk and the distance. And the structure there, I believe, is the well that is going to be removed as part of this project. But that's an enclosure for that. Next. And now I'm going shooting straight down. You see the units basically are going to extend not that much farther than the existing units today, I believe. But this is going to be the open area. There's an area designated for lawn. And then in front of that flagpole, they're looking to have, we need to apply for an NRSP to install some stairs, construct stairs that go down to the bluff about in the middle part of the property there. Next. This is a shot on the northern side. And you can see the vegetation, and just beyond that vegetation, it drops off a little bit. And if you were around for the hearings we had several years ago, there's sort of a makeshift walkway, but I believe it's not on the applicant's property. There's a little property marker there on the right side. It's hard to tell, the orange. Yeah, that's it. So I'm assuming that's the property line on that side. Next. And that's a little more of the vegetation, just looking in a different direction out more toward the, to the bay. Next. And now I'm standing, where am I standing? I'm in the area, just shooting across so you could see the horseshoe and the golf tee area, and all of that is going to be removed as part of the project. And there's going to be, I believe, some lawn or grasses put in there. And next. Now I'm standing by that flagpole, but obviously at the beginning of the bluff crest. And it's hard to see down there, but it does drop off after that vegetation, probably about, I'd say 5 yards out, maybe. And that's where they're proposing to have the staircase leading down to the beach. Next. And that's just a shot from that same area looking toward the, I guess that would be west. Yes, it is west. And I did not go down to the beach because you could see the waves crashing, and it was very windy. And next. And now I'm shooting from that basic area, shooting back across to where the existing cottages are today. And again, that structure in the middle of the property that is there. And next, there may be another one.
I believe that's the last one.
That's the last one. Okay, really? All right. I did go and I was curious about what that structure was in the middle of the property. And I did get a door open a little bit. And I think it is, in fact, the well. And as a matter of fact, there was a ladder going down a hole down into the depths there. But I guess that didn't make it. Okay. And I believe that's it.
Thank you, Member Terry. Any members have any questions regarding the report?
No questions.
No questions. Andy, we'll turn it over to you, I believe.
Andy, you're on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. There you
Okay,
go.
great. Good evening, Chairman Deline, members of the board. I'm Richard Hammer. I'm also here with Joel Halsey. I did want to point out that Alex Bluedorn is the caller on hold. They're the designers of the landscape plan. So if anything comes up that's vegetation related, they can probably answer it. As Terry pointed out, our staking and posting skills now have withstood a tornado. We're looking for a Cat 4 hurricane so that we can really round out our posting skills. But that was a pretty significant achievement. It's a little bit of an unusual application. I'm going to try and keep my comments as brief as possible. You know, we've been in front of the ARB, the planning board, and the zoning board in the past on this. So a lot of people are familiar with the application. And the reason we're in front of you today is because of an issue that arose at the planning board level. I think there are two smaller issues that are pretty easy to check off. One, we did submit a revised staircase design that eliminated one of the landings that was suggested in the TAM as something that was possible to do. They were proposed to, the extra landings were to have periodic rest points as you traverse down the dune and shorten the possible fall distance. But it is in fact possible to redesign to have one landing, a little bit steeper incline and stairs, but they work in either configuration. So the alternative design is in the file for the board's consideration if you want. Oh, you haven't submitted it yet?
I was going to say, I don't recall seeing it. It's not submitted yet?
Oh, we just got it today, so we'll have to submit it. But it's basically the same design, just with one landing. That was what was suggested. So I'm sorry, I thought it had been emailed over today for the board's consideration.
So the one landing is where?
It's in the middle.
Directly in the, I guess like the first landing? So it's a second landing?
Yeah, it starts at a landing as you walk down, and then it goes. So that, yeah, essentially, the staircase is a little bit, you have more stairs on either side of the landing. I mean, I can show it to you on here just to compare it, if you can see that. It's just a little bit different. So it has one landing that turns.
That really isn't doing it.
Okay,
Andy.
I didn't think it would. This is actually a better diagram. If you can see that's more illustrative of the land walking down. That's the one landing, and then it's contributing. But it's very similar, and it can be done either way. So We will submit that for the board's consideration. One other minor point that's addressed in the TAM, the revegetation. It's more of a landscaping plan that uses native grasses as the largest components of the planting. Once again, Alex is on the phone. If you have any question, I defer to him. But if you look, as the property sits today, it's almost entirely cleared and maintained as lawn, and that's a grandfathered condition that's been on this property probably since the 60s. As part of the redevelopment, they wanted to have a mix of native grasses, native shrubs, native deciduous trees, in addition to the typical evergreen screening trees that people would install along the borders of the property. The landscape plan was prepared by LaGuardia Design. A lot of thought went into creating an environment outside of the resort units. Basically, they wanted to have this meadow feeling throughout the property and carry it forward. They were trying to create a consistent palette of plant material, as well as maintain the spectacular view shed that I think you can get a sense of it from looking at Terry's photos. Almost all this area is outside of NRSP jurisdiction. As a matter of fact, the only thing in our application tonight that requires a natural resource special permit is the staircase to the beach proposed. Native landscaping is sort of the idea that was proposed in good faith to replace that existing lawn. There's no nexus between the landscape and the staircase that would justify imposing any additional requirements to our landscape plan. I think the board will agree this is a dramatic improvement over the existing conditions and will provide a beautiful landscape that will enhance the view of this property, both from the public as well as provide a lot of the benefits associated with revegetation work. Truthfully, I think the owner should be applauded for the attention to detail that went into this plan. And I'm sure when it's installed, it will dramatically improve both the looks of this property as well as the neighborhood in general. The real discussion point of this application is we're seeking a variance to replace 4 resort units. I did want to correct that. The TAM has it as motel units, and that's what the notice states. These are actually 4 detached resort units. According to the town code, resort units are required to be in multiple unit structures rather than detached units. Essentially, by reconstructing these 4, we trigger the need for a new issuance of a special permit, and the special permit standard says that you have to have multiple unit structures. The code has always required these types of attached units. Similar units have been approved without a variance from this provision on several occasions that I'm aware of. Basically, this provision has been ignored in the past. However, based on the determination of the building inspector, we're applying for this relief from the town code. As the TAM points out, this was likely a requirement to support the motel industry. Detached units are, at least in theory, more conducive to long-term housing. Basically, you're taking rental units out of the rental stock. This is a very unique instance. This property has had 4 detached resort units and has been this way for 50 plus years. Probably they weren't detached resort units when they were built. This probably long predates that provision of the code. I think these were built in the 60s. A larger multiple unit structure on this property, at least in my opinion, would offend both the aesthetic of the property as well as the residential character of the neighborhood. We think the detached units represent the best arrangement for this property. It will diminish the overall mass of a structure. You got to figure if you had multiple unit structures, it would be a larger structure that really wouldn't fit in the neighborhood quite as well. We did explore the attached units. The results were not favored by the applicant, the planning board, or the architectural review board. It just wasn't going to be an attractive option. In fact, it would look strange to see this property developed in such a manner. The requirement to have multiple unit structures may in fact be a reasonable restriction in some areas of the town. I'm thinking more like downtown business districts, central business zoning, but I respectfully submit this property isn't one of them. In closing, I just request the board grant the application and the NRSP for the staircase, either as amended or as originally designed, and grant the variance for the detached transient motel units from section 255-1188 of the town code. It's just such an unusual application as well as a unique property that the application of this code provision would destroy, which we think is really the ideal project for redevelopment of this site in a manner consistent with the character of the neighborhood. To date, all the administrative boards have agreed that this is the most desirable option. We're asking for you to agree with their determination and our determination tonight. The standards for a variance, I don't think you need to exhaust them, but it has to be the minimum variance necessary and adequate. Benefit to the applicant and the character of the community has to be respected. I think that this requested variance, although unique, is probably a good application to say that we qualify for the grant requested variance.
Okay, you're done, right?
I'm done.
You're done, okay. What makes
You're not going to turn me off, though.
What, not yet. What makes you call them resort units today? Since they are detached and they're not a multiple unit.
Well, the code
What's
defines
the
them.
size of them today?
Well, the code is the one that defines them as resort units. A resort, a motel unit can't be larger than, I think it's 325 square feet off the top of my head. It also can't have plumbing or kitchen facilities. And there's a bunch of other things. But under our current code, these were not motel units, and they never would have been deemed motel units under the code as it exists today. They would always be resort units.
But do they have kitchens?
Yeah, I believe they do.
They
Yes. They're more a cottage type development, which our code, I guess in 1984, when it was updated, understood there were a lot of things that aren't traditional motels and were deemed to be, the actual definition says a resort unit is anything that doesn't meet the definition of a motel unit, essentially. So, it's kind of a unique thing to our code. There are very few traditional motel units in the town, but the ones that you can think of, like the Memory, I believe would be a typical motel unit that would qualify under the definitions.
Andy, and this might, we might have to get Alex on the line maybe, but you have a proposed lawn that goes up essentially to the Seha line. Curious what.
Well, there is lawn there right now. You can look at the photo that's shown right now.
On the LaGuardia, the re-veg plan, you're calling it a proposed lawn. Right, I know there's lawn. My question is, what's in between the lawn and the edge of the clearing?
Lawn and the edge of clearing, you're talking along the water side.
Yes.
It's either Little Blue Stem or Pennsylvania Stem, and once again, maybe that would be a good opportunity to unmute Alex.
Chair, I can unmute that if you'd like right now.
Yes, you may unmute Alex Bluedorn.
Unmuting right now.
Vice Chair, don't forget he needs to be sworn
Yes,
in.
I do. Am I swearing him in or are you swearing him in, Cancel?
You can swear him in.
Yep.
Unless
Alex,
you'd
you on
like
the
me
line?
to.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I am. Hi, Roy.
Hi, Alex, I'm going to have to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. The question out there is, what's between the proposed lawn and that butts up to the Seha line and the proposed edge of clearing?
So in between the proposed fescue lawn, which is basically replacing the existing lawn that's out there, is Little Blue Stem and Virginia Rose, primarily, which are both native plants that you typically find within this area. So low and native, and then along the southern property line is all bayberry.
Right. And then what's the required maintenance for that area?
Very little maintenance, basically none. Originally, and I had a conversation with Brian Frank about this, was that was all going to be part of our revegetation. However, Brian didn't necessarily think that, or thought that we needed to add some shrubs into that area. So we're just going to back that area out of technically the revegetation scope, but it's all native plants that would want to live in that area and will thrive with basically no maintenance whatsoever.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
I would like to hear from planning.
Yeah, me too. Okay, Brian, are you ready to go?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am.
You haven't been sworn in, right, Brian?
Not yet.
Okay, Brian, do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
Good evening, board members. As you can see, I have one of the aerial images of the property up on my shared screen. This application has two elements to it. One is a variance and the other is the natural resources special permit. And the variance is a little bit unique for a board that looks at dozens, maybe even hundreds of variances a year. Variances from the special permit standards or variances away from many of the natural resources of the town are relatively uncommon the way they come up before this zoning board. There hasn't been an application like this that I'm aware of, maybe ever, but certainly not in the last decade or more. And I think it's important to evaluate this application, the variance, in a way that distinguishes it from other properties. As the assessment noted, the resort zoning district is fairly limited in town. There aren't a large number of properties or a large number of acres that has the resort zoning district. And any variance that's granted should be unique to this property to ensure that a precedent isn't set with unintended consequences. The applicants had opined that at one point that maybe the requirements to have resort units in a multiple unit structure is an outdated relic or an archaic code provision. And if that's the case, the proper way to evaluate that would be in a code change the way it's defined. And that would allow a look at how it would affect all the properties in the resort zoning district. So if this variance were to be granted, I'd encourage the board to work with your attorney and word it in a way that ensures that it is limited to the circumstances and the condition of this property. This application is presently being reviewed by the planning board. There was the most recent discussion was in July of this year. I attended that meeting. It was a Zoom meeting, so I attended it the way I'm attending this one. But I would characterize the planning concerns, the way they were expressed by the planning board, as overall minor and fairly routine in terms of the revisions they were looking for, additional clarifications, tweaks to the plan, to the getting the lighting plan, revising the ADA parking layout, and issues in that vein. And in my opinion, I would not characterize there being major objections to the application. And the idea of multiple unit structures was discussed. And again, the way I would characterize that is there wasn't a lot of appetite to dig into it farther. It was noted in that meeting that if two of the structures were connected together, that's a multiple unit structure. But again, in my opinion, the planning board didn't have a strong appetite for pushing this application in that direction. It does require the zoning board to entertain and act upon the variance before it can proceed further with the planning board review. So the circumstances for this property are that it is improved with 4 existing detached resort units. They are not transient motel units because they do have kitchen facilities, and that's one of the definition of a transient motel unit is that it doesn't have kitchen facilities. But resorts are required to meet the special permit standards for transient motels. And this project meets the other standards for transient motels and resort units in general, with the exception of being detached structures. And I think that's important to distinguish if the zoning board is going to entertain this variance. Before I move on to the natural resource special permits, I want to stop for a moment and find out if the board has any questions that I can answer to this point, or if there's any other resources. I know you've seen the survey. I can bring it up on the screen, but the truth is that the survey and the plans are so large that I'm going to have a hard time bringing it up in a meaningful way. I'm happy to try. I'll bring up anything that the board members may want to see.
Yeah, Brian, I'm trying to grasp again this whole transient unit thing, not transient unit thing. In the TAM, it refers to the building inspector confirmed that the transient motel unit shall be in multiple unit structures. Does that stand? Is that a correct statement?
That is a correct statement, and I don't know if Andy wants to speak to it more, but there was an interpretation requested from the applicant if some of the other infrastructure connecting the units together, for example, the plumbing associated with the common sanitary system would constitute a multiple unit structure. And I think the building inspector was affirming that no, that type of utility connection doesn't satisfy the threshold for a multiple unit structure.
So in 255-1188, number 4 is where it states they shall be in multiple units, right? So the variance could be limited to that one item, which is all it's required. That's all they need, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anybody else have questions for Brian on this particular part?
On that part, no.
All right, Brian.
Right, I don't know. Well, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the re-veg.
Well, Brian's going to go into the NRSV part of it now.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that first then. Okay.
Sure. Just to complete the discussion of the upland improvements. This is the most recent survey that was submitted to the zoning board files. It has one of the more recent configurations of the staircase down to the bluff. This does have a parking layout that was revised as per the request of the planning board. What you see are the 4 proposed units, each with decking, roof decking, and hot tub. Each are 600 square feet with basements. So the application requires a natural resources special permit to construct a flight of stairs down the face of the bluff. You heard from Andy that there's a revision that they're ready to submit to reduce the number of landings, and perhaps I wasn't as articulate in my assessment as I had hoped to be. The area that the planning department was raising a little bit of question about were the number of 4x8 landings, not necessarily the number of flat areas to level off the walk. Although that may not be necessary. This isn't a huge flight of stairs like we have seen at the properties that the board has reviewed at Water's Edge, for example, where there's a much longer run from the top of the bluff down to the beach. It's about a 25-foot drop over a relatively short distance. But if it helps the applicant at all, the planning department felt that the overall width of disturbance that was necessary to construct the staircase could be eliminated or could be reduced if instead of 4x8 landings, at least one of them was reduced to a 4x4 landing. So if they feel they need a flatter area before descending again, and part of it was to design the staircase in a way that minimized the extent that it encroached on the beach, I think that's reasonable. But obviously the more 8-foot widths that you have there, the wider the overall span of the structure. And it was the suggestion of the planning department that both the board and the applicant take a look at that in tonight's hearing, or as part of the review of the application. So I don't know if, I'm sure Andy or Joel will have an opportunity to address what type of revision they want to make afterwards. I'll bring up the LaGuardia plan. I know I can't fit the entire thing on the screen very well.
Before you do that, there was re-veg they're offering underneath the staircase also, right? And are you satisfied with that?
There's a biodegradable erosion control blanket that's proposed beneath the width of clearing that's required there, and planting with beach grass. As you saw from your photos, Member Berger, the bluff face is vegetated with a mix of native and a fair amount of invasive species. There is some native goldenrods in there, and probably a bayberry, not too happy, but there is an awful lot of shrub honeysuckle and vine honeysuckle as well in that area. So if I come down to the page with the revegetation on, I do think LaGuardia, and this was discussed at the planning board work session over the summer, it's a very impressive landscaping plan. It does utilize a commendable number of native species throughout most of the properties that they're planning to replant. And as Andy mentioned in his presentation, and as evident from the aerial photographs, the property is extensively cleared. The areas that are cleared are basically lawn, and until you're into that scrubby area, both adjacent to the bluff crest and the slope to the north. I think the concern for the planning department has been the representation of a reduction in clearing. And I do want to point out that there is a distinction between native landscaping and revegetation. We have a definition of revegetation in the town code. And to paraphrase it, you're basically kickstarting, you're simulating a natural habitat that had formerly been there or nearby. You're trying to get it started to naturalize, and you generally do that. We more often recommend shrubs, not very often trees, although sometimes they're voluntarily proposed, rather than grasses. One of the earlier iterations of the landscaping plan had large areas shown as revegetation that consist of Pennsylvania sedge, which is a native plant. It is a plant that resists deer browse. It grows about 8 inches on average, sometimes 12 inches. So it's sometimes touted. If you take a look at some websites, it's sometimes touted as a low maintenance lawn that requires little to no mowing once it's filled in. But we don't have any sedge meadows in East Hampton, and to call blocks of several hundred or 1,000 square feet revegetated on that level, I think really lowers the bar for revegetations where you want a substantial buffer. There was also discussion of substituting some of the Pennsylvania sedge or all of the Pennsylvania sedge with little blue stem, which is a native grass. It does tend to grow in more abundance in more patchy areas. But again, we don't have any blue stem meadows, landward of our bluffs in Montauk or really anywhere else in town. So it's either landscaping or it's revegetation. If it's revegetation, it should simulate what would occur under natural conditions on the property, which is generally a little bit more of the moorland shrubs that we see in Montauk Point.
Brian, from that standpoint, I know the planning board is going to have most say on the landscaping, but from an NRSP standpoint, Mike, I think our board's concern is the protection of the crest of the bluff, the buffer, and is this plan address that adequately in your mind?
I think it could be improved. Okay. If you're talking about protecting the crest of the bluff, obviously the closer to the bluff, the more important it is. So the area between, the crest of the bluff and let's say even 50 feet from the crest is what's most important to have, what would be a more traditional revegetation and less of a landscaping plan.
Great, thank you.
And what are some of those moorland shrubs? that you would?
Well, we do recommend bayberry a lot because
Yeah,
it is
okay.
deer resistant. Beach plum is besides being deer resistant in an area like this, you also want species that are wind and salt spray tolerant. And that, leads to a lot of bayberry, beach plum, to a lesser extent, some of the arrowwoods that we have out there. I think the planning department is willing to take a look at anything that LaGuardia proposes that's native, requires little maintenance, and deer resistance is a factor. Deer browse has limited the diversity that we would like to see in some of those freshwater wetland revegetations in particular. Groundsel-bush, Baccharis helmiifolia is another shrub that's native that tends to be resistant to deer browse. It's not favored.
Any other questions?
Okay.
One question, Brian, and it just strikes me that it shows up in the photos and it also shows here on the illustration. But I just want to confirm with you that the sort of unusual rock formation on the beach is naturally occurring.
Well, it's been there for a very long time. I don't know how natural it is. Some of it is not. There are some concrete slabs mixed in there. And the staircase has been proposed in a location that's immediately north of that, so it shouldn't be necessary to disturb any of those rocks there. But Fort Pond Bay has a fairly, I don't want to say industrial history, that's the wrong word, but there were a lot of manipulations there that was used heavily in World War II. This is not far from where the original downtown Montauk was on Fort Pond Bay prior to the hurricane of '38. So I'd have a hard time calling that layout of stone that you see at the property purely natural, but I think it's also been there for a very long time. Some of it, I'm sure, are glacial stones from the bluff, but considering how hard the shoreline is in front of the Montauk, I'd lean more to suggest that there is some historic manipulation there.
Brian, if I can just say that your photos that you included in the TAM 4 and 5, it looks pretty dramatically as if in front of the Montauk there was an effort to pile up this glacial till. If we look in the other direction, we see far less of it. And I do think the natural state of the beach is more indicative in figure 5 than it is in figure 4. And I do think that there's some other materials there that were probably brought in. It seems pretty dramatic being on the site and looking at it, and your photos reflect that pretty accurately, I think. There is a difference from one side to the other. And that the fact that they're locating it as far north as they are to be clear of that glacial till, I think is a positive. But I would like to piggyback on what Vice Chair Delane said, and that is my primary concern would be the crest, the revegetation of the crest, and the protection of the area that's going to be disturbed by the construction of the staircase. All this is particularly sensitive. It's obvious when you see any of the bluffs in Montauk how important that is. So as they move forward, maintaining long-term stability on that cliff, not only on the crest, but as you come down the staircase is, I think, a primary concern for me when I look at the project right now. Thanks.
This is the approximate location of the staircase. You can see the flagpole as reference, and I think most accurately the staircase is proposed in this area here. So again, limiting the width of disturbance a little bit and stabilizing it the way the applicants have proposed is important to provide that bluff protection.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody in the public lined up there?
Chair, yes, we do have a caller on hold, and I will say it looks like Alex left for a moment and came right back in, so I'm just going to unmute him to make sure, unless he has any other points. Alex, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah, I lost a portion of that, but I was able to call back in.
Okay, Chair, I do have one.
I did want.
Go ahead, Alex.
Oh yeah, I wanted to just key in on what Brian was saying about the top of bluff and the crest of bluff and protecting it. I mean, that's certainly a goal of ours and the clients, and I think the whole project team. So that was one of the reasons why we had suggested a little blue stem or a grass that has deep roots. But we would be amenable to changing that to beach grass, which is the same plant that's being proposed for the boardwalk as well, if that would be a better alternative as viewed by the board.
And to what point would that be? Like in that, what is that pink shaded area you're talking about?
Correct.
So that would also be defined in the town code as revegetation. Is that correct?
Where are you talking about?
The area between the lawn and the edge of clearing on the east western side. We can let it. Go ahead, Andy. Are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
You have anything to add or any comments based on the comments and the concerns that the board raised?
Sure. I just have 4 things or maybe 5 things I want to hit on. One is on the revegetation idea. Keep in mind, the only thing that's triggering an NRSP on this property is that bluff staircase. So there has to be a nexus between the mitigation that the board's asking and the activity we're proposing. We're clearing a very small area. As a matter of fact, I was going to try and screen share the revised. Let me see if I can do that. I will submit that. Oh, I guess we can't because Brian's sharing. But I will submit the revised walkway. What it does is it has one 4x8 landing instead of that third jog. So it does reduce and create a more compact footprint. Brian, can you not share?
It's been the practice of this board not to permit landings. So I think you should maybe take into consideration Brian's point on that.
That's it right there. Do you see that?
We see that, but that we've denied landings like that in the past.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that designing staircase and is not my forte. I do think that the reason they put landing is so they can regularize the grade, so that you can have a more even distribution of stairs. But if there's an alternative way to do it, I'm sure we can come up with something that the board would find agreeable. But this was what was suggested in the TAM. Maybe it was misinterpreted, but we took this to be what? Yeah, he said one extra landing, remove one of the landings, and that's what we did. So unless Brian has an objection to having this landing, in which case we would work to address that as well. But that's the way we read it in literal terms, was that, yeah, if we could reduce the footprint, we would be okay. So I'll defer to Brian on that. The second thing I wanted to talk about is this determination about the 4 detached units. It wasn't arbitrary when we said, hey, geez, we think that these units might be attached by a sanitary system. And it's because I have, and I will submit a copy of this, the Sea-Watch condominiums in Montauk, or resort units in Montauk, were 4 detached units identical to this scenario. And the review by Lisa was a vacant property at the time. When Lisa LaCory reviewed it, it said, can every provision in paragraph entitled transient motel be met? The response was yes. Paragraph 4 of the said section requires all units to be in multiple structures, which these are. These are identical. They're 4 detached. I don't know if you know the Sea-Watch units in Montauk. They're identical to what we're proposing. So I took this and submitted it to the building inspector and said, well, Lisa LaCory determined they were. How is this different? Maybe it's because they share a sanitary. And that's when the determination came back. No, they have to be in multiple unit structures. So Sea-Watch was clearly just, it was missed in some fashion. It was an anomaly. And so that's why we came to the board too. This third thing I wanted to mention was Terry had shown a picture of the stake that she was referring to as probably the property line. I think that stake was actually the edge of one of the decks. We had that staked in the field so that you could see the edge of disturbance. It wasn't the property line, but that was placed there, I think, in a discussion, maybe even with Brian. But that deck has been pulled back off of that corner, but that's what you saw there, not the property line.
Okay.
The third thing I wanted to mention was that the well house, yeah, there is that structure you saw there with the ladder. Don't go down the ladder. I don't know what's down there, but
No,
that's the
I'll
old
let you
well
do that
house
one.
building. And part of this is also extending public water up to this portion of Firestone Road. So the well house will be removed, but it really has no purpose other than that's the way they used to house the old well, the well facility, so that it would be, frost resistant at the end of the day. And other than that, I guess I'd wait for Brian to comment on the revised landing detail to see if that's something he has an objection to. And if he does, I'm sure we can redesign something that would meet whatever standard he's looking to attain. And as to the revegetation, as I said, it's not really revegetation, but I'm sure if the board conditioned their variance on the grant of a plan that everybody agreed to, I'm sure we could meet that standard as well and be happy to.
But wouldn't it be appropriate to request a buffer here that protects the crest of the bluff? That's what we're looking for.
Well, that goes back to the nexus question. The only thing that is in jurisdiction.
Well,
the
nexus is that this has been pre-cleared forever, for a very long time, and the conditions and the town code has, come into effect to protect the NRSP conditions, and one of them being the bluff crest. So we're trying to improve this property when it comes to protection of the bluff crest.
Yeah, but we're not getting a variance from anything that affects the bluff crest. As a matter of fact, a stairway down to the water is probably protective of the bluff. People will access the water irrespective of whether or not you build an access point. We're trying to do it in the best, most feasible manner. If we remove that walkway down to the bluff, we're not even talking about this. We're talking about the
I'm not talking about the walkway, Andy. I'm talking about a buffer.
Yeah, but the buffer, none of the units violate any standard. And once again, I think Alex said it best, that we're trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. They just have a different vision in terms of trying to protect the view shed.
And I do recognize that. I do recognize that.
Could we hear Brian comment about the stair design?
Well, one landing is better than two. These, just to borrow, I don't know if you can you see my cursor on their shared screen?
Yeah.
No.
No.
All right. If you'll unshare for a moment.
Stop share. I think you hit it there.
I got shot down.
Good tonight.
With regard to the horizontal areas, it's hard to comment how necessary those are. These flat areas, as if you want to call them landings, those are the ones that make the most sense to maintain a 2-foot separation from the face of the bluff, to provide a little relief from the vertical slope. And even a certain safety measure is it's thought that if you were to fall from the top of the stairs, at least you have someplace flat to maybe stop yourself before you get down to the bottom. So just looking at the cross section, if this is the number of landings that the applicant field provides safe egress to the toe of the bluff and allows the stairs to land, kind of at the head of the beach, then I think that's reasonable. Obviously, this slope that First Coastal drew is generic. That doesn't reflect the topography of the property. So the need to go horizontal, I don't see how that provides better protection. But the assessment did recommend eliminating at least one of the landings, and to that extent, the applicants have revised the project, more in conformance with the recommendations of the planning department. With regard to the buffer, I do want to remind the board that the board has looked at a number of coastal staircases most often at Hedges Banks, where a certain amount of revegetation is required. Andy is probably correct that in the future people will want to access the shoreline here, but they definitely haven't accessed the shoreline from this property for the last 50 years or so. Andy and I have looked at aerial photos on this property going back to the prior application that the zoning board entertained back in 2016. There's no record of any pedestrian access from the upland of this property to the shoreline of this property in its history. People either didn't, or they accessed it from the north. Member Berger referenced, a grass path to the north, or from the Montauket's property to the south. So you are introducing a new use. It's a conforming use, it's a compatible use, but you are introducing something that isn't there now. And I think that it's up to the board to determine with council to what extent there's a strong enough nexus to require some measure of revegetation. Certainly, improving the stability of that bluff in conjunction with the new structure going down the face of it is consistent with the natural resource special permit standards and the purpose of protecting natural features.
Thank you. All right, Andy, quickly respond to that, and then we can move on.
Well, once again, I would defer to Alex Bluedorn to be able to put his head together with Brian and come up with something that works for the applicant as well as the board. But we're not resistant of the idea. I mean, if you look at our plans, we're providing a lot of native landscaping that could be deemed revegetation under the code. I think we're almost there, basically. It looks like he's looking for a more woody component or a more permanent component. I'm sure Alex can come up and meet that as a condition.
Right, I think that's appropriate. And again, the plans are very impressive, as Brian said, so
Vice
we
Chair,
appreciate that.
just letting you know, we have 2 callers on the line.
Okay. Jason, do we have callers on the line?
Yes, Chair. I have 2 callers. I'll unmute the first one right now. Hello, caller.
Yes, this is Jonathan Subject from Stella Lamont Rahani Architects. I don't have a comment at this time, but I was on the line in case the board had any questions about the units.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I'll mute that, and I will unmute the second
And
caller
next
on
caller?
hold. I'm unmuting now.
Just letting you know, we have 2 callers.
Hello. Can you lower that?
Hello, caller. Can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Bob Bazzogi. I live across the street from this project here.
Okay,
Can you,
Mr.
state
Zoe,
your-
would you like to state your name and address?
My name is Bob Bazzogi. My address is 664 Fleming Road.
Can you spell your last name for the record, please?
Yeah, B as in boy, A-Z-O-G-E.
And are you an attorney, Mr. Bazzogi?
No, I'm not an attorney. I'm a homeowner right across the street.
I know, that's fine. I'm going to just swear you in. If you just raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. My name is Bob.
Excuse me, Chair, if I may. This is Mike at LTV. If the phone caller could please mute his television or computer in the background. There's an echo.
Mute that? Okay, I got it.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bazzogi.
Yeah, I've been living in a house across the street from this project, or the Montaukett, since 1984. I've been on my property for 36 years. I'd like to know when exactly this residential area became zoned, what is it? A resort area. There is no actual resorts in the area. This is a residential area. We live here. The Montaukett was built in 1959. That might have made that a hotel zone. Those 4 cottages that they're wanting to rip down were never motel units, not as long as I've lived there. I've had friends that have lived there year-round. Those are rental cottages, year-round rental cottages. Do we really need a resort condo in a residential area? I just don't understand any of this.
Okay, I don't know if I have an answer for the resort area. That's a great question, but
Mhm.
What did you say?
Mr. Chair, I think I can respond to at least part of
yeah,
that.
Andy, if you will, thank you, Andy.
Sure.
I don't have an
I
answer
don't know
when
when it became resort.
Well, and truthfully, I think it probably predates zoning. The Montauk was built somewhere around 1959. These cottages were 1962.
Exactly
That's
when it
got to
was
be
built. It was built in 1959.
Yeah, so in 1962. But under our code, resort cottage uses, as a matter of fact, a lot of my friends growing up lived in these exact cottages. I know a few of them.
So did my friends.
That is a
absolutely.
resort use under our code. Resort is sort of it's a term of art that's maybe misinterpreted under our code, because a resort doesn't mean like a resort when you go to, it's not a day spa use. Resort is just a form of motel or occupation that doesn't conform to the definition of motel. So this will continue to be 4 resort units. It's 4 resort units today. So in terms of the actual perception of change in use, it's identical to what it is, whether it's year round or seasonally occupied. They're still resort units, and the intention is that we have 4 resort units, and we will continue to have 4 resort units on the property.
So in reality, the whole entire town is a resort because people are renting their houses out like motel units by the day, by the hour, by the week. So is the whole town a resort now?
Well,
I
we're getting
can't
beyond
address
this.
that
I
other
think
than
we're
to
getting
say,
beyond the scope of this application. Let's just stick to the application. If you have any other things to say, if not, if you want to, you can say what you want about this application, but we can't go beyond that.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope to fertilize that out of using my organic garden next year. No, it won't affect
Thank you.
this property. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
All right, thank you. All right. Any other questions, board, or anybody? If not, Terry, would you like to close the hearing or make a motion?
Okay, so for the application of 80 Firestone Road LLC at 80 Firestone Road in Montauk, tax map, where'd it go? 300-017-01-05, make a motion to close the public hearing, leave the written record open for 2 weeks from the time that the transcript of this hearing is posted on the town website. And for any public submissions. And I guess to get that new documentation and the new plans that Mr. Hammer referenced.
Do we have a second?
Yes, second, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll concur.
Okay, you concur, I concur as well. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mike, you
Well,
can unmute the chair.
I will do that right now.
Okay, can you hear me, everyone?
Yep.
We good?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move along now. Okay, next we have our work session. We have quite a few this evening, quite a few administrative applications, variances without a hearing. Actually, admins mostly, I believe that's what we have. We'll get going right away. The first one I will read in, it is an admin. And the applicant is Jordan Bach at 10 Gilbert's Path in East Hampton, tax map number 300-151-3-9. And this is to construct approximately 1,260 square foot addition with 234 square feet of wood decking, replace existing wood decking around swimming pool, construct a new 594 square foot detached garage, and remove non-native vegetation and replant with native duneland vegetation on a parcel of land containing dunes and duneland vegetation. This is in my Amagansett district, and Tyler Forsyth from the planning department is going to walk us through this. If you would, please go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. So like it was read into the notice, there's first story additions on the property. Excuse me. The first story addition that's sort of in this U section of the house, there's actually an existing deck there, and then they're coming out as well. Small decking here, small decking up here, and a proposed detached garage with an upgraded sanitary system. The areas that they're going to be revegetating is some disturbed areas and areas with ornamental vegetation that have taken place over the past few years. A lot of it's on this large dune, sort of to the southeast of the residence, and then the rest of it's sort of around the decking that's going to be replaced in place. There is a wetland to the south. It's almost out of jurisdiction of the majority of the project. That's 120 feet to the southern end of this piece of decking here. So the majority of the project is out of jurisdiction of wetlands, but it is within dune land of the property. And there was an application in 2015, which is what this is. And that gives you an idea of the scale of what the board approved previously. It's slightly larger than what this application is coming in as. You can see the existing houses here. So the addition, the new addition would be here and then here compared to what all that approved residence was in comparison. And I have an aerial. So you can see there's some non-native trees on here. Some of those are going to get removed. There's a lot of Russian olive on this dune area here, which is going to get removed, and then all of it's going to get replanted. They have a re-veg plan already in the file, which is good. So it seems to be a pretty good application.
Okay, thank you, Tyler, for that. I'm fine with this going forward administratively. Board members, any comments?
No, but just as far as that revegetation, that's, is there any way of getting a protection on that dune over time, like an easement, or is just consider it re-veg?
We just went with the re-veg. It is protected vegetation at the end of the day.
Right.
Obviously, a scenic easement would be more on top of that, but they didn't agree to a scenic easement when we approached that idea to them. But we figured we'd come to the board with that as is. It seems to be adequate for the amount of construction that's going on to get that revegetation in and sort of clean up what's been done in that area.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments, board members?
I just want to ask, you said something about removing Russian olives in the area that would be disturbed. Is that the only area you're going to be taking invasives out, just in the disturbed area?
That's where the most of it is on the property, is in the areas that they're going to be revegetating. So this like large dune area, and then around the pool itself, there's some non-natives that they're going to be removing and replacing. The landward, or the northern side of the property is in fairly good condition. It's disturbed because obviously that's where most of the structures are, but most of the non-natives are down the south side that we wanted to sort of naturalize.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll go ahead and make a motion with regard to Jordan Bach at 10 Gilbert's Path in East Hampton, that this application go forward administratively.
I'll second it.
Second. Oh, I'll concur.
Concur.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, board member. Thank you, Tyler. Okay, next we move on to Evan Chesler at 396 Old Montauk Highway, tax map number 300-88-1-11.1. And this is to construct a 702 square foot one-story addition on a parcel of land containing bluffs. And again, Tyler is going to walk us through, and this is in Terry and Ed's Montauk district. Go ahead. Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, so this is like was read in a 702 square foot one-story addition to the existing residence. This is on Old Montauk Highway, so it's setbacks here from the toe of the bluff rather than the crest. So they're well outside the 125 feet. I think they're like 150 almost to the corner of this addition here. I don't know how easy it is to see with how lime green that color is. Hopefully you can see that fairly well. So this is the addition here, existing house, existing swimming pool, and an upgraded sanitary system that they're going to be doing up in the, as far away as they can get it, up in the corner of the property. So it is an existing large house. They're going to be essentially going up pretty close to their maximum GFA, so we shouldn't see any real additions in the future unless they come in for a full redevelopment of the parcel. But it's in the most conforming location they can put it. They are upgrading the sanitary also. It's 2 bedrooms, I believe, in the addition. Fairly straightforward.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. I've reviewed this and I'm fine with this as well. Comments?
Sounds okay. Sounds okay to me.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion then regarding Evan Chesler, 396 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk to that this application go forward administratively.
Second?
Concur.
I'll concur.
Concur.
Terry, okay. Thank you, Tyler, again. And now we'll move on to Gosman at 10 Fairview Way in Montauk, tax map number 300-19-8-11.3. And this is a new house, sanitary system and swimming pool waiver request of phase 1 archaeological investigation. And this again is in Terry and Ed's district in Montauk. And Brian is going to walk us through this. If you would, please, Brian.
Yeah, I see Brian said some.
He's muted there. He's getting unmuted now, right? Let's see. There
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. You caught me off guard when you went out of order a little bit there.
Oh, did I go out of order?
Yeah, you did.
You skipped Shore Road.
I apologize.
No apology necessary.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue. Thank you. We'll continue with this. Thanks, Brian.
Sure. There are 2 elements of this application that we'd like the board to consider, and one is a request to waive requirement for an archaeological investigation, and then the other is to consider the application for administrative review. The property is located in Montauk. It's located, the building card says it's on Fairview Way. The street address, the street sign says Fairview Terrace, and neither of those are to be confused with the other 2 Fairview Avenues or the South Fairview that we have in Montauk. So I hope it's location.
And the fairway.
So this property is located on the, it's located in Montauk Peninsula. All of Montauk has been identified by the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation and Historic Preservation as an archaeologically sensitive area, as a potentially sensitive area. Archaeological investigations have been required in conjunction with a lot of natural resource special permit applications that have been proposed in freshwater wetland jurisdictions. They're often required for projects that require freshwater wetlands permits from the DEC as well. I'll bring up the survey, or maybe I'll start sharing my screen now, if that's okay. This property would be out of natural resources jurisdiction, and it has a bit of a unique history. This is the subject property. This is the road where it's labeled as Fairview Terrace. The building card describes the street address as Fairview Way. It borders the golf course. This property in the past had been identified as being outside of natural resource special permit jurisdictions on 2 separate occasions. Once in 2004 with a jurisdictional statement that was valid for 7 years. The second time was in 2011 with a non-jurisdictional statement that theoretically, or would have been, was issued for 10 years at the time. That would have taken it up through 2021. In 2016, a new inspection request was made. And at that time, the planning department identified freshwater wetlands on the golf course property to the south and southeast of the property. I realized that a memo that I prepared for you didn't make it out of the office, and I apologize for that. In that memo, there are some site photos from the wetlands. I don't believe that there was an error in those prior jurisdictional assessments, but I do believe some of the hydrology in this area has changed. There are a couple of sources of water. I don't know where the origin are, but there are a couple of places where culverts discharge into the woods adjacent to this property. These ponds that you see on the golf course were excavated out. If you ever have an opportunity, I can bring them up now, but if you ever take a look at the history of the development of the golf course, you'll see a number of streams or ditches running through the golf course in a number of different places. And in the 70s, they were made features. They were impounded. These areas were excavated out. I don't know if they were lined or not, but to make a lot of the features that you see on the golf course right now. We have natural streams that do pass either onto the golf course or through the golf course from off the golf course property. So this is a bit of a hydrologically active area, and the soils on the golf course themselves are identified as muck, which is probably the biggest wetlands, the wettest of the wetland soils that we see in town. So it really doesn't take the introduction of a lot of water to really change the physical properties to being a poorly drained area to a wetland area. And it's the planning department's opinion that that's what happened here. There was a building permit issued in 2012 based on the no jurisdiction letter in 2011. The applicants bought the property in 2014 with the reasonable presumption that a natural resource special permit would not be required. They've made the natural resources special permit application knowing that it's required. The archaeological requirement and again, I see that a submission that they put together didn't make it to you, and I'll apologize for that as well. I did send it to the board earlier this evening, but they did obtain estimates from two firms to conduct archaeological investigations, and those estimates range from, well, one is $5,000 and the other is closer to $12,000. So they're limiting the discussion to just the history of this property. The planning department does not object to a waiver or an elimination of the archaeological investigation requirements for this property. I'll discuss its merits for administrative review second. But at this point, because this is a little bit of an unusual request, and I know that applicants really don't often have an opportunity to speak in the work session portion. I'm not sure if either of the property owners are on the line.
They are, Brian, but we cannot let them speak because that's not what we do it.
I understand. I'm going to summarize some of their correspondence and just tell you that part of the reason they obtained this property was because of their perception that it would not require a natural resources special permit. So I don't think we can ignore the wetlands or say that they're not wetlands to the south of the property. And I do think the wetlands are protected by this application. And at this point, I don't know if Council Field wants to add anything.
I would like to, at this point, just to advise the board, when Brian brought this to my attention that there was coming in for a request to waive the requirement for the archaeological investigation. Being the rule follower that I am, I went to look to see what triggered the need for that, and if there were any requirements in there with regards to, whether it was a waivable requirement or if there was any guidance as to when it had to be followed by the letter of the law. And what I actually have found, and I believe I've confirmed this with the town attorney, John Jelnicki, is that this is a type 2 action. The only reason that this board has the authority to ask for an archaeological investigation, even if it's a sensitive area, but under the town alone being able to initiate that would be if it came under SECRA. As a type 2, this doesn't trigger SECRA, and thus there's no authority to actually ask for an archaeological investigation. I think that it has been done in the past because when DEC is also, a DEC permit's also involved, DEC does have authority to ask for that. But when DEC doesn't ask for it, the town cannot do so. In a planning, if it was before planning board, they have a separate right to ask for it under certain circumstances, as well as SECRA. The zoning board does not. So I don't think there's anything here to waive, because I don't see any statute that gives you the authority to ask for it.
Well, that sounds very weird.
Well, our authority comes under SECRA, and if we don't trigger SECRA, it doesn't.
Okay, so I was told anything with an NRSP in Montauk, unimproved, so this has never been done before?
It has been done before, but
only
not by any authority to do so. Now, we have looked into it, and the history is at one point, residential properties were not type 2, and so that may have been what triggered SECRA in the past. But our code does not have anything that triggers it. It's done a full search, and there's no basis to require it.
Okay, so I guess we can move along and
Well, okay, can we talk about the rest of it? Can you talk about the house and sanitary system?
Sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Brian?
Brian, you want to pull up the survey maybe, Brian, if you would, please? There we go. Brian, you want to walk us through this, if you would, just.
Yes, so this is the survey of the property. This is what we have under review. These are the two areas of wetlands. They're in the wooded portion southeast of the southeast of the property on the State Downs golf course property. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see the setbacks. A little bit better. The closest structure has been proposed 111 feet from the wetland to the south. The closest point of the residence is 150 from the wetland to the more easterly of the two wetlands. And the sanitary system has been proposed 177 feet from the wetlands. So it meets all of the town's wetland setbacks. There is a lawn easement on the westernmost portion of the property conveyed to the neighbor. With that existing lawn coming out of the lot area, the property still complies with building and total coverage requirements and the proposed clearing limits of the code. So it meets zoning in all respects and complies with wetland setbacks. And the planning department believes that it's a good candidate for administrative review.
Thank you, Brian. Terry, any comments, or Ed?
No, I guess I'm okay with it. I find it interesting, the 20-foot bridle path between the property and the golf course.
Yes, that bridle path, there are a number of
I know
them.
it goes around the whole town.
Yeah, you know, that came up in the Fisher-Bruno hearing.
Right,
You know, on Old Westlake Drive, there's a 20-foot wide bridle path. When Montauk was laid out, so much of it was laid out by Carl Fisher in that time. Remember, this was going to be the Miami of the North, Miami Beach.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, a lot of bridle paths in Miami.
Was built there.
Yeah. Does that, Brian, does that work as like an easement, or how does that work?
Well, it's steeply sloped, it's densely vegetated, and it's off the property. So it.
No, I meant on the adjacent property. Forget about the topography. Just legally, how does that work? Is it like a scenic easement or something, or how does it?
I don't think so. It's part of the golf course property, and in theory, if they ever wanted to do something with it, I think they would have the authority to look into it. But I'm not aware of any efforts to establish that as anything pedestrian, equine, anything.
Oh, interesting. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Brian. You mentioned the water, the wetlands. I guess you saw some piping or some.
That's correct.
And you don't know who that is?
I don't know if it's. I wouldn't mind finding out out of curiosity.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make it doesn't. It's hard to see it coming from the neighboring properties because the vegetation is really thick in this area. I would have to. I wouldn't mind getting back in there and doing a little bushwhacking to see where it comes from and where it goes to. But I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you at the work session.
Where is
I just would hope that it wouldn't impact the house that's being built there.
Well, it's at a much lower elevation. But just to give you an example, and this is with a little luck, I'm opening the right photo, and I'm not.
So there it is.
This is an example of two of them here. You know, you can see the surface water here. It's pretty active. This photo was back in September when the application first came in. This is not after, immediately after a heavy rain. It's somewhat active. In our, and this is at the southern end of the wetland. In the field work that we did in 2016, doggone it.
Can you show us where that is on the aerial, where that's coming out, Brian, when you get a chance?
Sure, I'll do my best to estimate it. Yeah. But when we did our flagging in 2016, our field sketch noted culverts on more of the eastern side of where we had identified the wetland. This is the field sketch that the surveyors went out and located the flags associated with it. I didn't see either of these culverts when I went to the property, but you really kind of have to, you got to dress for a bear to get in there. It's heavily vegetated and you got to dress for it and be ready to do some bushwhacking if you're going to see it. To show you where they are on the property.
Yeah. Yeah, on the aerial, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, let me get to a better one.
That's good.
The wetlands are in this area here.
Where do you think those hoses are, Brian, your photo?
It's about roughly under the label here where my cursor is.
Could it be
the access down here is not easy to get through. It's steeply sloped and heavily vegetated, but you can get down there and you can get to this golf cart path. And if you do, if you make it that far and walk south and look to your right, you can see them.
Well, what I'm getting at, is it possibly a roof runoff that was installed for the house on the bottom left of the photo?
It's possible, but that corrugated plastic is not, it's not PVC. It's not going to last forever. I don't know if it's coming from, if I had to guess, and maybe that's a bad idea because my guesses are often wrong, but I think it has to do more with the water features on the golf course than the residences around it. Mm. I don't know what to base that on, except this is so steeply sloped and so heavily vegetated. I don't know who would run, I wouldn't want to speculate that piping is run down from neighboring improvements. And even if it was roof runoff, at the date that I took that photo, that wouldn't account for the amount of water that I've seen in there. It doesn't seem like it would anyway.
Yeah, but anyway, it's interesting. I would be, because somebody obviously installed that thing.
Well, the hydrology around the golf course is interesting. There is a lot of water that moves. Most of it moves from west to east. You know that those clay soils don't drain well. And we saw it in the application that had the ponds in, south of the golf course where all of those are connected by infrastructure as well that predate zoning. A lot of concrete head walls and culverts and Holding.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, with all that, I guess I'm okay to have it go administratively. And what,
Well, I know one thing. I know I left a few golf balls in that water hazard.
aha, there you go.
Okay, do you want to make a motion then, Terry?
Was
If you
everybody
please.
else okay with it?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
okay.
would only say, my only concern is that looking at this drawing, I visited the site today to see what it looked like, for the member Berger. And it's quite an elevation drop from where that house is down to the golf course. And so the pool seems to me to be out in an area that is close to where this drops off. So I'm not standing there now, and maybe I'm being a little inaccurate about it. If you're comfortable with it, Brian, I guess I'm okay with that, but I see the length of the disturbed area from the, working its way, I guess that's southward. And it's not necessarily a concern, but it is something that I want to make sure that in the future we have some protection for that bluff, or it's not a bluff, but that very steep slope.
Well, to build on your concerns a little bit, this is the clearing line that they have proposed. They are pretty close to that 20-foot setback, so they don't really have room to locate the pool any farther. And if this slope and this clearing were proposed in a closer proximity of the wetlands, I would share your concerns. But since it is over 100 feet away, that does provide a little bit of protection through the distance.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Ed.
All right. So for the application for Gossman at 10 Fairview Terrace, that's the correct address, right? In Montauk, tax map 019-08-11.3. Make a motion to allow this application to be processed administratively.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Brian. Okay, my apologies. I'll go back now to 54 Shore Road Holdings LLC at 52 Shore Road, Amagansett, tax map number 300-131-8-10.1. And this is to construct a 365 square foot one-story addition with 1,203 square feet of first and second story decking, a 26 square foot shed, new driveway, and an upgraded sanitary system within jurisdiction of dunes and dune vegetation. This is in my Amagansett district, and Tyler's going to walk us through this, if you would please, Tyler.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully, again, you can see this fairly well because of the lime green color, but they're proposing additions and decking on the seaward side of the residence, which normally we would be cautious about. But in this case, they're right up against their front yard setbacks. So they really don't have anywhere to go landward on this residence. Additionally, you probably can't see it very well, but I'll pull up the aerial so you can see it. There's an existing decking that they're sort of removing and building their addition where that is. So they're sort of swapping out an existing structure for what they're proposing. The total coverage isn't going up significantly. Building coverage obviously is, since they're adding an addition. It's really what they're adding is like a master bedroom and extending a couple small rooms over here a little bit. So they're doing the small addition and the decking. They're upgrading the sanitary system down here on the west side of the residence. They're going to be revegetating all of that, and this green area is what is currently cleared that they're going to revegetate as well. So their total clearing should go down slightly, actually, once they're done with the project. And they are adding this section of driveway. Right now, they don't have any driveway on their parcel, so they're just adding 2 parking spaces on their actual property itself. So fairly straightforward, a little unusual. They are in line with all the other residences nearby, so they're not like extending out significantly further than anybody else or anything like that.
And what are we looking at as far as the setback there in the green area? I see, is that 134? There's an X over. Yeah, right there. Yeah. What is that number?
134.9.
134. Okay.
Yeah. So they more than meet their setbacks.
Yeah.
Mostly for jurisdiction of dune vegetation more than anything, really.
Right.
What's the gray line?
Let's see how.
What is that? Is that a CHA? It's not a CHA, is it?
Yeah,
that's the limb wall line. Limited line.
Limb wall. Okay.
CHA is way closer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I've looked at this and I'm okay with this going forward administratively. Board members?
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Tyler. Okay, moving along here. Now we'll move on to our post-hearing decisions.
Is that a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Jeez, I'm trying to move forward here too fast. Sorry. Okay, with regard to 52 Shore Road Holdings LLC at 52 Shore Road, Narragansett, I make a motion that this application go forward administratively.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Okay, and thank you, Terry, for the reminder. Okay. We will move now to the post-hearing decisions, and we have quite a few. So we'll get started with Schwartz and Hain at 44 Cliff Road in Amagansett, tax map number 300-173-2-17 and 18. And the project description here is to construct a 1,985 square feet of first and second story additions with basement level garage, 803 square feet of first and second story decking, a 228 square foot covered porch, 936 square foot swimming pool, an upgraded sanitary system, and the clearing of approximately 8,127 square feet of dune vegetation on a parcel of land containing dune land and dune vegetation. And let's see, I apologize. Who do we have here? Brian, is this you or Tyler? Who's
Tyler.
Tyler?
It's Tyler's, yeah.
Tyler, thank you. I was going to say what we're looking at now is the second a revision here, so those numbers changed. I wonder, Tyler, could you go back and pull up just to begin with the initial application, please? The initial survey
Sure.
where the pool was far to the east, if you please.
Is this what came in after the hearing? Did they?
Yes.
Oh, is this?
Okay.
Well, it came in just before the hearing, I believe.
It was just before the hearing.
That's correct.
They
This is the
didn't
revision.
change anything after the hearing.
No, this
right?
is their revision.
Yeah, we discussed this, right?
This was the first survey they submitted, even before they put topography on the
Right, yeah,
on
yeah,
the
that
survey.
was.
Well, thank you. That's what I wanted to talk about. So these numbers obviously have changed since this revision. So we all remember this quite well. It was a lengthy decision. I mean, lengthy hearing, a lot of discussion went into this application. And as you recall from my site visit, there's an incredible, this is basically, maybe you can go to the right if you would more, Tyler. Can you bring that survey more on? I don't know if you can do that. Thank you. Yeah, just to get a better sense of it, centered more, whatever you can do. Anyway, the reason is on the upper right or the right side of the survey and the page there is incredibly beautiful, literally dunes there. And obviously the planning department and this board was concerned about that dune land and the location of the pool. And the applicants then came back with the revised, which you can pull up now if you would, Tyler, please. The revised survey there, and you see the difference. Can you scroll to the right? It's sort of, we're not seeing the whole thing here. Or the left, whatever. We're not seeing the whole thing.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I see the whole
I
thing.
am.
Oh, that's weird. I'm just seeing I'm not seeing all of the dune land on the right. Oh, okay, I can do that. I apologize. I apologize. I didn't think I could.
User error.
Yeah, I didn't know I could adjust that. Anyway. Okay. So anyway, you see, board members, this is certainly an improvement from the initial application. I'm in favor of approving this application for the reasons I must say I certainly would not have were it the first. Were it not revised. This is basically almost a double lot compared to some of the neighbors here. And they, I believe it could be legally divided. I'm not 100% certain, but I believe it could. because of the lot area, but they are not, obviously. And so basically, we're just continuing with one residence here. They are constructing a good portion of the improvements have to do with the existing footprints there, and I feel they've made it much more compact. They've pulled the pool in far to the west, closer to the house there, and they've been incredibly good stewards of that land. And you see they're offering this proposed scenic easement here, and the areas there will be revegetated as well. So I feel that this meets the standards, and I'm in favor of approving this. Comments, board members?
What's the date on that survey? Can we just confirm that? It's September 11th?
September 11th.
Yeah, it is the 11th. Okay.
Yeah, I
All
couldn't
right.
go all the way over there. That's what I was trying to do, Tyler. Right. Okay. September 11th?
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to.
If you would, please. Right.
Okay, also to go, I agree with your assessment on this. I think we're looking to approve it. Just a couple of things I'd like to add to the discussion on the project. The owners had owned this property since 2002. The original, the house itself, the property was developed originally in 1967 and has not been developed since. I think that's an important part here.
Mm-hmm.
The original house is a 2-bed, 1-bathroom house, and they're adding only 1 bath and 1 bed, adding to the house itself. That doesn't go. Then they're also proposing a art studio. Now, the architect, which I agree with the way they pulled this whole project back from their original application. Not only did they pull the pool off the dune vegetation, but the art studio, they also pulled back art. They could have gone, because they are artists, and look for an art studio that is compatible to the town code accessory building. But because of this whole sensitivity of the property, they made an attached studio. Secondly, the pool in the first application where it was did not need any variances. It only required an NRSP. Because of the planning board's recommendation against this application, they moved it, and moving the pool therefore has caused the variance need for the pool side yard setback being 10 feet, which is a 50% variance, and appears to be a large variance, and it is a large variance by most standards. However, the property adjoining this property is owned by the town, so there'll never be another owner on that property, and I think that's an important distinguishing factor with this application. Let's see. And on top of that, they are proposing 7,500 square foot easement as mitigation for this project, which is a substantial easement. And I don't think there's another easement like this in this property. So that's just wanted to add those points to this application.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Roy.
Okay.
Terry?
Sure. Let's see what it can add. Well, they're also doing an IA system. I think it was questionable whether that's a requirement for the scale of the project or not, but they're doing it, so that's a good thing. I do believe, I'm also looking to approve this project. I do think it's a little sprawly, but that doesn't bother me so much. Actually, we did have a number of letters in support and letters against. One of the neighbors at the public hearing is the homeowners immediately to the west. I guess that's lot 85 in the survey. And they were concerned about noise and the proximity to their property for the pool. And the applicant did go ahead and offer some mitigation, additional mitigation there, but with the revegetation plan. And on that updated survey, I believe they did add some more revegetation to screening between that property and the applicant's property. So I too think it's a decent property, decent project, and I do like to propose the large scenic easement also. And I am also approving the project.
Thank you, Terry.
And also, you know, what's interesting too, guys, is I think that preserving that dune on this property also preserves the continuity of the dunescape as it goes into the town property. I think that's quite an achievement that was changed that way.
Yes, and thanks for pointing that out, that the adjacent town property. Thanks, Roy. I agree. Tim?
I agree with my fellow board members, and you all were so thorough. You covered all of my notes, so thank you for that. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, thank you. And Ed was not on the board when this was through, so.
Right.
Okay, Council, are you good on that, Council?
I have what I need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will move on next to Camilla Lippi at 21 Bianco Road, East Hampton, tax map number 300-56-1-5. And this project description here is to demolish an existing 1,600 square foot residence with 1,534 square feet of decking and hot tub, and to construct a 2,760 square foot two-story residence with 1,545 square feet of decking, 35 square feet outdoor shower, generator, cellarway, and sanitary system on a parcel of land within the town's jurisdiction of Bluffs. And I don't have to go on through all of the variance standards. I'll turn this over to Tim, Board Member Brenneman. This is in his district. Tim, you want to pick it up from here, please?
Sure. The date of this hearing was August 25th, and this is on Bianco Road. Bianco is a road that runs along the bluff line with Sammy's Beach to the east and Milano Drive to the west. The terrain in this area, as you recall, runs from north to, let me get that right, runs from south to north. So it's sloping away and down toward the bay. The properties along Bianco are likely disturbed, and they've been altered over the years. Some lots have actually cleared into the bluff, and there are some lower level areas along these properties that were likely man-made. The shoreline, however, is beautiful along this stretch. And if the board members remember my photos, I certainly remember the ticks that I brought with me from this property from my photo inventory. And it's very undisturbed along here. The home is in disrepair currently, and this will be a complete redevelopment of the property. The home has been owned by the same owner since 1994. And the proposal is to build a two-story, 2,760 square foot home. We have an NRSP and 5 variances. First thing I'd like to mention is that the project will retreat 10 feet from the bluff. It today is 18 feet, and as proposed, it will be 28 feet from the bluff line. We're also proposing, as can be seen on the screen here, a 20,000 square foot scenic easement to protect the bluff and the natural features, and I'll circle back to that in a second. The IA system is required, but will certainly improve the conditions overall. There is a walkway to the shore. That's an existing walkway, and the owner plans to maintain it. On the flip side, the design of this house calls for a finished basement which doesn't count in the square footage calculations, but if it did, the project would be roughly 4,000 square feet instead of the 27, almost 2,800 square feet that it is now. It was pointed out during the hearing that the current house also has a inhabitable basement level as well. We don't know exactly what that basement looks like, but it wasn't noted to be inhabitable. The other thing about this project is that the bedrooms increased from 3 to 5, with 2 of those being downstairs. And even though the house is retreating, there is further room for it to retreat south and farther away from the bluff. We did hear from 3 neighbors on Bianco Road. They all spoke the night of the hearing. They were all against this based on, I would categorize 2 main concerns. One was the overall size of the development, and the other was the potential impact on the development would have on the road conditions there. It should be noted, however, that the applicant maintains, I already mentioned that, habitable basement space, and that they also mentioned that they had the right to add a second story to the home with the existing footprint of the house. So while I do have some concerns over the increased size and the location, I do think, however, that the project offers some significant benefits. And for that reason, I'm looking to approve the application. We usually look for 2 Rs when we have a redevelopment like this, and that's retreat and revegetation. The home is, in fact, moving back 10 feet, and we are getting some revegetation, but really what we're getting here is an easement that protects just an absolutely beautiful and natural area. And I would give this applicant a lot of credit because many of the neighboring properties were disturbed right into the bluff crest in some cases, and this maintained just an absolutely beautiful area. And 20,000 square feet of scenic easement represents just shy of a half an acre of an easement, and also 55% of the total size of this property. So a really substantial mitigation measure. I do think it important that we condition a specific construction protocol as part of this approval. This was brought out during the hearing by our chairman, and specifically that we design this so that we protect the natural setting, including the mature vegetation near and on the bluff. The idea would be to create a 2-level protocol where we have an initial demolition protocol where we request that the areas that are to be removed on that end of the property, which include the decking, the hot tub, and so forth, that it be done by hand. And that once that is done, we tighten up those boundaries to be much more closer to the construction so that we make sure that we absolutely preserve, and we make sure in our wording of this that we preserve that natural and mature vegetation. And my notes indicated that the applicant is willing to allow the planning department to draw those lines. And so we should include that as part of this. But that ends my report. I am looking to approve this application.
Okay, Tim, what's the date of the survey? I don't have anything that looks quite like that. I have a black and white one that says October 18th, 2019. Is that correct?
I do have that one. it looks like we must have gotten
October
one
1st, 2020. Okay.
after the hearing, because this one is dated October 1st.
Right.
And if you
Oh,
recall,
okay.
during the hearing, all we had was something in their memo of law that showed the scenic easement. So this one spells it
Right.
out.
Okay, so that's the date of that, good. And then, well, the construction protocol, I know we got a document that I think we should reference, and you were saying that also, that we received on August 24th from, I don't know who it's from. It says Construction Protocol, Lippy Residence. I don't know if that came as part of John Tarbitt's thing with the 2 phases, but I think that's a good.
That was in the file
document.
before, that was in the file before the hearing.
Yeah, that was the night before the hearing, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when we got the memorandum of law.
Right. That's
But
good.
I think that's a good document to have references. It's
Right.
very clear on that phasing of the construction protocol and.
Although I think we need to make a statement about that phasing because we're asking for something slightly different.
Yes.
We're asking for some hand removal and a reduction to preserve the like as
Oh, the
Tim
hand
said,
removal with the hot tub.
mature plantings in there,
Right.
mature
Yeah.
vegetation. There's some.
Which,
And
there's
they
some pretty-
agreed to that, right?
Yeah. Yes,
so
they did.
council can write this into our determination, correct?
Right, and you're referencing a construction protocol. It says it was updated on September 15th, 2020. It was received by the board on October 2nd, 2020.
Right, okay.
I don't seem to have that, so I don't know if it was distributed or not, but.
I
okay.
believe it was. It came under the cover letter from Tarbett and Lester on October 2nd.
Yeah, I don't see that. All my stuff's August 24. But anyway, I remember it from the hearings.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's the starting point with the additional conditions that the board is looking for with regards to the hand removal of the structures that are being removed anywhere near the bluff. And that we are talking about 2 levels of limiting fences
Right.
in
Okay.
order to, specifically in order to preserve the natural mature vegetation on and around the bluff.
Okay. I too am looking to approve this. I would have liked more of a retreat for the house. Is pretty much what Tim said, and I am very happy with the over 20,000 square feet of the scenic easement. I too am looking to approve this project. With all the other stuff we talked, did the variances, they're all still as they were in the posting? Well, did we account for the house moving back?
Yeah, that didn't change.
So do we know that
I
we
don't
have all
think
the
there was any-
variances?
There
I
was
don't
no.
think there was a change in the position of the house from the time of the posting and the hearing. And there certainly wasn't a change after the hearing, as far as I recall.
Right.
I did not note anything either.
Yeah, okay, all right, just checking.
Okay. Let's see.
I have one comment to add, John, if you will.
Sure.
I just want to address one issue, the one thing with relative to the character of the neighborhood. I don't know if we really discussed that, but Tim did bring it up a little bit, but if you take a look at the building plan, it's 2,700 square foot. And it's not an imposing house on the neighborhood. I know we were concerned about the intensity of the use that's happening, but if you take a look at the size of the house that's above grade, it certainly is, in my opinion, part of the character of the neighborhood will fit in.
Thank you, Roy. And again, this was before Ed was with us. So my comments are that basically I agree. Tim did a very thorough job there. Thank you, Tim. And I agree with all of my fellow board members' comments. I think it is fitting in. And I think there was a lot of conversation about the view sheds. And when you look at this survey and when you look at the aerials of what's there, I think it's in keeping and is not asking too much. And I won't reiterate all of the points that Tim made, but I agree with them all. So I'm in favor of approving this as well. Council, anything else?
Nope, I think I have what I need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So we'll move on now to 133 Gerard Drive LLC. And this is in Spring, it's the address is 133 Gerard Drive as well in Springs at tax map number 300-41-2-25. And this is in Board Vice Chair Delene's Springs District. Roy, do you want to pick it up from here, please?
Yep, if you can, just give me a second here. Okay, we're going to reference the July 28th, 2020 survey. Board members, if you remember, this is on the east side of Gerard Drive, this house. They are, just give me a second, guys.
Roy, while you do that, I can just quickly read in the description if you'd like. It's
Yes, please. I was just
to allow 78 square foot of stairs, 400 total square foot of covered porches, 220 linear feet of fencing, 62 square feet of cellarway to remain, 596 square feet of total decking to be reconstructed, and construct a 16 square foot outdoor shower within the town's jurisdiction of wetlands. And they're looking for variances for this work here. There you go.
So this is, in summation, this is an application. The owner of this bought the property in 2014, and they're looking to just clean up some of the issues on this property that has existed over time or changed existed. There was a previous. There's a number of ZBA decisions on this. 2009 was an approval for the covered porches. There was a previous owner that filed the application to legalize. This owner's coming in, and now the application originally was to leave everything and legalize anything, but this owner is proposing to remove the hot tub and reconstruct the deck and relocate the outdoor shower. There were the area of the steps that were added at the going down into the crawl space or basement was there. That was added, and if you remember that discussion, that was really added. They added a couple of steps or raised the steps to prevent water from going into the basement. The improvements were already over approved areas. And we looked at the possibility of relocating the shower. It's really not a reasonable request. There would have to be underground piping and stuff. I think the shower is a minor addition to this application. The problem I have is we had a lengthy discussion with the issue of an easement, and maybe that's an area for discussion here. The owner does not want to offer up an easement. I know that in our hearing, the council brought up the fact that the zoning board does have the ability to require an easement and request it over a period of time. That's an issue I think we need to discuss. The applicant responded in writing on 10/29/2020, and they reiterated what I laid out as far as removing hot tub and stuff, and they also reiterated that they are not seeking to offer up an easement as mitigation. With that, I think the overall the application does require it should be approved, and I think once and for all, clean up this property and get it all cleaned up and done with. That's my opinion, and I recommend it, but I think we should have a conversation about what to do with the easement.
Thank you, Roy.
There is an easement that shows on this survey, but that was the one that never got processed. Is that what happened, right? Oh, this was just that one exists.
I think that exists. I think
they disagreed to that. They wouldn't
Yeah,
increase it. We wanted them to increase it, right? Yeah,
Increase it.
I think that's correct.
Right.
I think you're right there, Teresa. That's
yeah, okay.
And Roy, remind us, there's some re-veg, there is some re-veg here, isn't that correct?
Yeah,
That is a vegetative buffer.
Yeah,
10 feet by that edge of lawn.
They have agreed to a 10-foot buffer.
Yeah,
right.
They
At that
sent
edge of
us,
lawn,
that
Go
that
ahead.
was dated October 26th.
Yeah. All right, so they want to leave it the way it was, but they are giving us that 10-foot buffer. I mean, they're not giving us, they're offering
yeah.
that.
They offered the re-veg buffer, but they won't do the scenic easement expansion. Yeah.
Right. Tim, any comments, Tim?
No, I'm in agreement with Vice Chair Daleen. And I kind of feel like, it's a cleanup project. It should be approved. And I think the 10-foot vegetative buffer does give us some additional protection.
Yep.
And given the fact that there's already a scenic easement on there, I think that's good mitigation for sort of the mishmash of things that they're trying to do. Almost all of which were already present on the property when they bought it. And in a couple of cases, they're doing some things, I think, to actually improve them. So I'm looking to approve it, and I think it meets the standards.
Thank you, Tim. Terry, any final comments?
No, I agree with my colleagues. I think they seem to be doing this tastefully. They're trying to make things right. They're doing the sanitary system, right? Yeah. Is there?
No, they haven't.
No, I'm sorry.
they're not.
It's not a new one. No. But again, with the buffer, I'm okay with them not making that a scenic easement any larger. I'm okay with the buffer. And my take on them, it sounded to me like they know definitely what they want to do, but what they want to do sounds like it would also be the correct thing in terms of the vegetation. They did submit October 30th. We got a re-veg restoration plan from Dewey's Planning.
Yeah.
With showing the plantings on that buffer. So we do have that. And yeah, I too will approve this.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow board members, and I agree that I don't see anything happening between that vegetative buffer and the scenic easement. The sanitary system is existing. You can tell there's numerous low height leaching pools, and it's as far away pretty much as it can be from the wetlands. I have no further comments to add. And I'm leaning to approve this as well. Council, we okay on that now?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to Dan and Julie Resnick at 72 Shore Drive East in Amagansett, tax map number 300-107-1-22. And to remind you all, as recent as this was, this goes back to September 22nd, 2020. And the project description here, first of all, it's a 3,548 square foot lot. It's a very small lot, as we know. And the description is to partially reconstruct and raise the first floor elevation of an existing residence from 5.3 feet to the federal flood zone elevation requirement of 12 feet above sea level, install a new sanitary system, and reconstruct a 354 square foot deck on a parcel of land containing duneland, beach vegetation, and tidal wetlands. I'm going to read these, read again the relief sought here. It's an NRSP with variances relative to height limitations, pardon me, from section 255-11-72D and section 255-375 Harbor Protection Overlay District regulations of the town code, and any other relief necessary. 3 variances are required to allow the house to extend beyond the relative pyramid height limitations along the eastern side, western side, and northern street boundaries by 18 feet 4 inches, 22 feet 6 inches, and 14 feet 6 inches respectively. A 123-foot variance has been applied for to install a new sanitary system 77.2 feet from the wetlands. This is again a residence, and this is in an AE flood zone elevation 12, Seacrest type 2, but the elevation 12, because it's AE, compels one to have the finished floor at 12 feet. I believe the existing height here is as we know, is at 5.3 feet. So therefore they will be raising at 6.3 feet. And board members, to remind you, back on August 25th, we had the public hearing right down the road here at 212 Shore Road in East Hampton. Pardon me, the applicant there was Heidi Ho, and that was as well to raise it 5.7 feet and a new sanitary system. And they, again, there were using the same footprint, raising it up and removing a few structures. And this board approved that application. I believe there was one, board member Brenneman dissented on that. So the reason I mention that is obviously these two, this is a very similar application. I think the Heidi Ho and this sort of unfortunately, and I'd have to say, are really bellwether applications here, because we all know and love this area, and the charm of this area, as we all know, is the fishing cottages and the trustee property there with, I believe, they used to be 100-year leases. I'm not sure exactly. They revised that a bit, but very long leases for the residents there. And here we now have all sorts of environmental conditions to deal with regard to global warming and sea rise and the increase in storms and such that we are all witnessing as we get older. And the issue here is that we have this existing house that does not conform at all to pyramid law as it is right now. And we can go to these diagrams later, but thank you. Who's on this? Who's running the board here again? I apologize. Is this Tyler? Is it? Well, the planning department. Thank you, whoever is doing this.
This is Brian's. Wasn't this Brian's?
Is Brian doing that? Okay, he might be muted. But this is good to look at. I'm going to ask him to pull up some other things later, the elevations and the sections and all, the architectural drawings. But as you see here, the applicant is proposing to take the existing house, raise it up, reconfigure the roof. They're putting in an IA system out by the street, out by the road. They're going to need Suffolk County approval for that, obviously, and variances for that. They would be raising the deck up as well. Some of our initial concerns, I know mine, and I'm sure the board as well, was, is this a total reconstruction? We asked that. We received back a memo from the architect saying that they are in fact raising the existing house. They are going to sister up the joist after it's raised, replacing windows and such. In fact, it's going to be, besides the shell, it's going to be, completely renovated. And our concern, and my concern as well, was the additional space in the first floor that is now basically being created, because of FEMA. Again, this is not habitable space down there. It's called out as storage space. There's a stair going down. There are windows in it. It makes one concerned about the use of habitable space, albeit not legal in the future, but that's becomes a code enforcement issue and really not ours, but I think we can raise the concern. The variances requested in the pyramid here are extremely substantial. I wonder, Brian, would you mind pulling up the elevation or the section so that we can see some of the volume and what's going on here? Thank you. Yeah, that would be good. That last one you had might have been good.
There was one that had more pages to it, and that's
Yeah. Well, this is all right. Why don't you walk us through really quickly, because this is an important one. So I'm going to take a little time here. If you could walk us even through each sheet, you can start at the top and I'll just talk our way through that. So here we see the site plan. Again, we see the roof plan in the darker gray. On the right is the deck and the stairs down. You see the sanitary plan on the left in the driveway. So they'll be getting some of that leaching galley is under the driveway. Next sheet, please. Here we're looking at the second floor plan. It's very similar to what they had. They're moving around. You can a few interior walls. They are not increasing the bedroom count. They had a TV room and they're still kind of keeping that, I believe. They have 2 bedrooms, as I recall. That's the existing, I believe.
This is the existing.
Yeah, that's a TV room there. If you wouldn't mind going to the next, we can come back. Yeah, so they are, again, and is that says, that's a demo plan. Okay, so you see you can move ahead to the next, please. Okay,
well, on that demo,
the lower, go ahead, Terry.
No, it's just on the demo plan. It's the dark area that they're raising, right? Oh, no,
yeah, well, it'll come back. We'll get to the second floor plan. This proposed. Here we have the labels are too small for me to see, but this is this is the new level at the basement. Yeah, that's better. Thanks, Brian. This is a new level at the basement. Again, my concern about this, possibly being used for habitable space, but again, it is what it is. They're showing a garage door. There are windows there, and a lot of storage space, and a stair to the second floor, an interior and an exterior stairway proposed. Next one, if you please, Brian.
On what bothers me on that ground level, I didn't see much in the way of these vents that would be required.
Well, they're breakaway. They're actually breakaway. I should have made that more clear. They have to be breakaway walls, and that's what the applicants would note by code.
I didn't see that they're breakaway walls.
No,
they have to be by code.
Yeah, so it's not the type thing you're referring to. Typically, the floodgates, Terry, that I know you're referring to. This is in such that it's in the AE zone that those walls actually have to be constructed to break away in the fact of in the event of a storm. So they're designed and they're engineered to a certain capacity, and after that's broken, they literally would fall in and push through. Here we have the belief. Yes, it's correct. They're not increasing the bedroom count. They reconfigured some spaces there. Kind of took away the TV room and made the open space there. Again, this is the proposed main level plan. They are maintaining the same footprint. Next, Brian, please. That's a good image. The isometric, the 3D image kind of gives you this a good feel of the scope of it. Later on, and you see the pyramid, the architects have drawn these kind of pyramidic volume that the existing house still doesn't meet. We'll see that later. And later on, we'll see another addendum was a volume study from the street side showing the pyramid plane being broken. That's the roof plan. Next, Brian. This kind of tells the story of the next sheet here. You can see the existing house isn't called out. Well, you can see it. Yeah, you see it on the bottom, the line of the existing house. That's what I want to say. Thank you. In yellow, in that yellow color. And that, thanks, Brian. And that shows you, we see that the existing house was not conforming to pyramid, and this one certainly is not. Again, that's a garage door you're seeing on the left and the stairs going up to the main floor there. Let's see what else we have, Brian. Next sheet, please. Okay, and these are the side elevations. And again, you see on the lower one, well, actually on both of them, you see the line of the pyramid from the street side, which is breaking the plane, obviously. Let's see. Next, Brian, please, just so that we can touch on all of these. because I think it's important to see these again. And that's your cross section right there.
Mr. Chair, I might want to just bring something up. Just went back to the 10. This is AE. This is AE. I'm not sure breakaway walls are required in AE.
Oh, is that only VE, Roy? Maybe I'm mistaken.
I think that's VE. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then Board Member Berger was correct. And they will, if this is approved, they would certainly need to have the flood venting there.
Right.
So that's
And
a good.
it was hard to see, but I saw a couple, but I don't know. They didn't look like a lot to me.
No, they have to be down. They also have to be less than a foot above grade, and the slab can't be more than a foot below that. So they'd have to be down at the lower end. So that's a good point you brought up. My apologies. I thought it was AE as well, but it's VE, I believe. So then there's one more diagram. What next sheet, Brian?
I believe this is the last one, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, there was one more that he sent in later on, but it's not too important. We know what's going on here. So having said all that, and I want to touch base on the standards, I will say I am leaning very reluctantly to approve this, and my reasoning is here, as much as the town in a best case scenario, and again I mentioned this in the Heidi Ho decision, would love for these properties to be relocated to other locations. That really has not really come forth yet, and at this point really is not too realistic. I say reluctantly approve this because my reasoning for leaning this way is that the applicants, as in Heidi Ho, are not proposing to change the footprint. It seems to me that folks who live on these kind of areas have the right to make their house conform to FEMA. I know typically, as Tim Brenneman was saying earlier, we like to see retreat and revegetation. There's really no room for retreat here, or not much room, especially trying to fit a sanitary system in. There's basically no room to retreat here. The house is not getting larger in square footage. It is getting larger in volume, as we can clearly see. And that really brings into account with regard to the standards, the character of the neighborhood. So I just want to walk through some of these and therefore my reluctance to approve this. I just feel though that it would be hard for this board to deny an applicant who wants to raise their house and meet FEMA and put in a new sanitary system without asking to make the square footage larger, because we all know that the basement floor does not count towards GFA. So I'll touch in on the standards here, whether it's an undesirable change would be produced with the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created with this variance. And this is with regard to area variances, 267B3. I said this is a bellwether application, as is Heidi Ho, because I think unfortunately with this, if this is approved as is Heidi Ho, the character of the neighborhood really is going to start changing with more and more of these applications coming before this board. It's not going to change it incredibly, but I would say driving down the street, you're going to have the appearance of all of these houses looking in volumetrically appearing as like 1.5, 1.75 story houses, and almost 2-story houses in this case. So that certainly is changing the character of the neighborhood. Number two is whether the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. And I would say that here it cannot, because as I discussed, it cannot be really moved back, and the only way to meet FEMA is to meet FEMA. And item number 3, standard number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. This is very substantial, but we've discussed that with regard to meeting FEMA. This is what has to be done. And therefore the pyramid variances, well, all of them are very substantial. I won't reread them. 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And it will physically, it will have an impact. Environmentally, it will be a benefit to the neighborhood with regard to the new IA system. In item 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Board of Appeals, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. This was not self-created. It's created by the fact that we now have FEMA, which we did not have when this building permit was issued for these structures. By many of them barely needed building permits back when they were built. But it's self-created in that these people, want to make their house more habitable, make it last longer in duration, and upgrade the sanitary system. So again, I'll stop there for now. I think you can see the conundrum that I find myself in here, because I don't look forward to this area changing, and yet I don't feel that we, the board, can really deny this, but I certainly want to hear what you all say, so I'll stop talking. And Vice Chair Jolene, you want to start off next?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I don't have much to add. I agree with your assessment. I think this is to approve, but in addressing the substantial pyramid variance that we're dealing with, we could, or I think we should, which you have done already. I just want to point this out, is apply a reasonable standard to our decision. And that reasonable standard comes down to the fact that they're not increasing the size of the house. They're simply raising it, forcing that pyramid variance. So if they were coming to us with a larger redevelopment of this property, then I think we would have to give it a second look. But that's just the comment that I had.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Terry?
No, go to Tim.
Okay. And we got Ed was Ed on board with this as well? I can't recall. Ed, were you on board when this came before us? No,
I don't think so.
No, that was a ways back. I apologize.
Yeah.
Tim, if you would, please.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the comments, and I'm all over the place on this. So I really appreciated the way the chairman framed all of those and gave both sides. I thought Brian Frank really summed up this whole application very well. And I jotted down some of his comments. He referred to it as one of the most challenging applications he's had to review, that there are competing and contrasting interest in coastal planning, and they're all evident here, that ordinarily raising to FEMA and combining that with an improved sanitary would be a no-brainer. And then, all the things that we just talked about. And so I think the planning department is struggling. We're struggling with all the same kinds of issues. And I know it's going to be inconsistent because I denied the first one that came in front of us, but honestly, I don't feel good about that because I don't know what the alternative really is. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that in the end, somebody should have the right to elevate their home to FEMA standards. That makes sense to me. I think that's good public planning. None of the rest of it does, but that one does, and I cannot deny this application on that basis. And so, ultimately, I'll just stop talking. I'm looking to approve it. I agree with the way that was framed by the chairman.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Terry?
Okay, so Terry is going to deny this one. I don't feel good about it. I I think the variances are, extraordinary, as we know, and when I know why they're doing it, I understand their rationale. I don't see this as similar to Heidi Ho. Heidi Ho, yes, they raised it. They didn't need a pyramid variance. Heidi Ho's property is 4 times the size. So I see this differently. And I guess, Brian, I have to say, what bothers me, and I keep going back to, is about the slosh, the discussion about the slosh, that if the storm comes in that washes out the bottom of this house, it's also going to be inundating everything else in the entire area, including the streets. And it just, I don't think, I think this almost will give somebody a sense of, say some safety. I guess there is some safety to the structure. I don't know that I see this as a good thing with all these houses in this area. If this is a precedent and this is the way it's going to go, it seems like this is the way it may go, that they're all going to be raised up like this, and then we're going to get a storm and everybody's going to be wiped out, or they can't evacuate. I just keep looking at the slosh map and all the red on it, and I don't feel good about this one. I really don't feel good about this. And I do think, in terms of the pyramid, it's going to be looming. If you look at that area, none of these houses are tall, and across the street you have what's the trailer park. All these are low-lying things, and they're just going to be staring at this roof in this house. And I don't think it's going to provide the safety that we think it will, or that they think it will, that we hope it will. So I'm going to be denying this one.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think there's nothing wrong with, certainly, I think we're all struggling here, and there's nothing wrong with having a dissent.
Yeah,
I think it's good to have on the record. I will comment on my reasoning with regard to your comments, Terry, because I thought of that as well. But the kind of storm that is going to come up and break away these non-breakaway walls and throw things out into the street, were that same storm to hit the existing house, the whole house would be out in the street. Because I know from being at that house, the condition of the house, it's, simple 2x4 framing. It was built when the strappings and all our state codes were not in effect, that now tie in floor joists and studs and to the foundation, as Roy well knows, and the roof rafters are strapped in with metal strapping and all that. So that kind of storm would blow apart the existing house. But anyway, I appreciate the dissent here, and I think it's something that we're all struggling with, and I appreciate
we are. I mean, I just think people will get a sense of perhaps protection that I don't feel is real.
Okay.
Considering climate change and the storms we've been getting.
Yeah. Okay, board members, any other comments? Anyone? No? Okay, Nancy Lynn, you good on that?
Yeah, I'll obviously have each of you review that rather carefully to make sure I get the comments the way, and may need to make some changes once a draft is circulated. But I think I understand the basic concept to get a start here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Council. Okay, next we'll move along to Anne Marie Field at 10 Hunting Road in East Hampton, tax map number 300-118-1-17. And this is in board member, excuse me, in board member Berger's district, and we all recall this one.
It's in yours, or no, it's in
board member
who's East Hampton? Yeah,
Brenneman,
board
right?
member Brenneman.
Oh, did I say Berger? I meant to say Brenneman. It's in East Hampton. My apologies.
The other TB.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So Tim, would you like to pick it up from there, please?
Sure. So board members will recall that this is a small lot located on Hunting Road. Hunting Road is on the landward side of Springy Banks Road. And the applicant has put in a new modular one-story home. The total square footage of the home is 1,268 square feet. And the issue is that the maximum building coverage is actually 1,269 square feet. So within literally 1 square foot of being maxed out. The applicant now is requesting a 301 square foot variance for a covered porch in the front. And also a, 301 square feet total variance, which is 179 square feet for a covered porch in front, and a 122 square foot storage shed that was existing on the property previously, and she wants to relocate it into the back of their property. This, as I mentioned, is a very small lot, and initially the applicant wanted a larger house, and at that point learned that she could not build a larger house due to the coverage issues, and then built, as I mentioned, a house with a footprint that maxed out basically the allowable building coverage. We did talk during the hearing about getting an updated survey. We did receive that survey, which is illustrated here. It's dated October 30th. And in this survey, it shows the proposed roof deck. It also shows the air conditioning, the LP tanks, the Bilco doors and the stairs in the back, and also the placement of the storage shed in the back. And this is a very modest project. The variances are very small. I'd like to recommend approval of this, but I'm going to need some help from my fellow board members. I think this is a team decision. I would distinguish this in a couple of ways. One is that this property has been a long-term family-owned property. It's been in the same family since 1974. So it's been owned for the past 46 years. And the previous house on this property was pre-existing, non-conforming. And I think that size of the house added to the confusion of the applicant. And I do think that there was some confusion. That was the issue here. The planning department noted that there were no environmental constraints on the property. I think that's an important characteristic. I would also note that there's a reserve lot in the back of the property, meaning there's no impacted neighbor behind the shed variance. That's all preserved property back there. And finally, the last thing I would note is that two neighbors, which was a little confusing because they actually seemed to both originate from the same house, which was at 12 Hunting Road, spoke in favor of the variance. And I would note, because I think it's noteworthy, that no other neighbors spoke against the variances being requested. So, you know, I think this is one of these situations where there's unfortunately very little in the way of mitigation that can be offered. I don't think a deck over the existing or a roof over the existing front deck is a significant variance request. The existing shed we explored with her. It's the one place she has to put tools and that kinds of things. So I think she was confused. I think it was an honest mistake. I think the variances are small. And so I'm recommending that we approve this application.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for that. Terry, you want to go?
Yeah. I think I'm also going to approve this. I agree about the covered porch. I think she could probably make it a little smaller to take some of the footage off that variance. But the decking exists, so she's covering it up. So I'm okay with that 179, and I can understand the problem with the storage shed. I don't recall, maybe I'm incorrect on this, but does she have a basement, or there's no basement in this house? Anybody remember?
There is, because there's Bilco doors going down.
Oh, that's right. There's the Bilco doors. Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I'm struggling with this one too, but I think overall the neighbors, actually the one neighbor that said he was a neighbor, I think he was just visiting the neighbor, but the neighbor was, you have the reserve area, you have the native. I think there really is no negative impact to any surrounding properties. We did get the ruling on the Bilco door, which I thank Eleni for, turning that the Bilco door does not add to any of the coverage on the property.
Yeah.
And I like it. So I too am going to approve this one.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. I don't believe Ed was here. Ed, were you on this one either before Ed's time?
Ed's time is coming.
Yeah, his time is coming.
Correct, everyone. He started with us in October. So when we get to those hearings, we'll make sure
celebrate.
Yeah.
We'll celebrate.
Be shot out of a cannon in October.
Exactly.
He'll have to lead the discussion on all of those.
Yeah, we'll pick on him. Roy, if you would, any comments, Roy?
You're on mute, Roy.
Thanks, Tim.
Can you guys see each other?
Yes.
Yeah, you do. You can
I
see
can't
mute
see
on
anybody. Let me see this camera.
You're not missing anything.
Everything's so small. I know.
Terry, we've purposely hidden ourselves from you, so you can't see us.
Good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I struggle with a coverage variance. I think we've looked at coverage variances in the past, and we've not looked too highly on it. So I think what you have to do is look at the distinguishing factors if we're going to approve this on this particular property, and that being mainly that the fact that this is a very substandard property, and the fact that you did have neighbors that were in favor of it. That's all I can grasp on this thing. I can't grasp anything more to say, this is a great application. I don't think it is a great application, but I think that it is, as member Tim says, that we should, we should approve it, and the variances are relatively small.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just add to that. I agree with you all. I'm leaning to approve this. I'll just read here, going back again to our area of standards, taking into consideration the benefit of the applicant if the variance is granted is weighed against the detriment, the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood and community of this. And again, is it the minimum required? And I'll say this: what makes this a little bit distinguishing to me is the fact that it's been in the family for so long. It's really a modest. It's a prefabricated house. They're probably, there are not architects and planners that maybe would have picked up on some of this stuff earlier. The house was ordered, it was delivered, it was put in place. There's a porch. The applicant noted that her husband, I believe, is elderly, and it's a place where he can go out safely and sit on the covered porch and get some fresh air. And again, with older people, going up and down basement stairs can be very dangerous, and that makes it a little distinguishing. I would not say this on most applications, but this has been in this family, and they're planning on living there, obviously. And, having a place for the applicants to put their gardening tools and that sort of thing. I don't think, as we've all discussed, because it's backed by that reserved area, it's really affecting anyone. You look at the neighboring shed, there is even across the property line on the survey. And the previous house was non-conforming with regard to setbacks. And we do have the neighbor's support and no negative comments. So to me, there are some distinguishing factors. And for that reason, I think it does meet the standards. Anything else, anyone? No? Okay, council, we good on that one?
Yes, we are.
Okay, we're getting there, board members. Next, we have William Wilson at 345 Flamingo Avenue in Montauk, tax map number 300-5-3-16. And this is in board member Berger's district. I don't have the TAM with me handy, Terry, but maybe you could just pick up on this and read off
What do
that
you need?
description if you would, please.
Oh, okay. The project description is to demolish an existing deck and construct a new 656 square foot deck in its place located 60 feet from a wetland. The relief is an NRSP and one variance from 255-4-40 wetland setbacks of 40 feet where 100 setback is required. You shouldn't have saved this one for last because I'm past my bedtime here. Okay, so, but did you have the 345 Flamingo Avenue? You read all that?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you,
So, it's a relatively simple project.
Mhm.
This is down in the Culloden area. It's on Flamingo Avenue, which is pretty highly traveled road. Basically, they're replacing an existing deck and they're making it a little bit larger. They are just not replacing it in kind, so it's the requirement for the NRSP and the variance. The wetland that is in question on this is actually on a neighboring property, and there's a stockade fence which was pre-existing, and a shed that was pre-existing on his property. With all of this. Anyway, I do think the benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the town and the neighboring properties. All these houses down here in this neighborhood pretty much are the same. There's a lot of fences, a lot of small properties, and these pockets of little wetlands. And I do think it's the minimum variance required. And I don't think there's going to be any detriment anywhere. So I'm looking to approve this, basically. It is a different deck, a little bit larger, but the original deck, I don't remember about the original deck, if that was also pre-existing. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I don't think there's any harm to the wetlands that's going to occur with this project or anything. So I'm looking to approve it.
Okay. Thanks, Terry. Tim?
Yeah, I agree with Terry.
Yeah, both the standards I couldn't think of.
That there are, they're basically squaring off an existing deck and they're adding stairs to it. And as a result of adding those stairs, the deck is 3 feet closer than what the existing deck is. So very nominal difference. And I agree with all the other comments Terry made, and I look to approve this as well.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Roy?
Yes, I agree. No other comments.
Thank you. And I agree as well. Thank you, Terry. And I have no further comments on this as well. Thank you. And with Tim as well, his comments. Okay, council, on that one?
Yes.
Okay, board members, we'll plow through here. We're getting there, but this is our workhorse meeting of the end of the year, I would say. I know we really loaded the agenda up here. Next, we'll move on to other decisions. We have Rue Properties LLC at 114 Bayview Avenue in Amagansett, tax map number 300-84-1-7.1. And this is in my Amagansett district. And board members, you all recall that a draft EIS was submitted for this property. The board felt that the draft EIS was bifurcated because there was the existing project that's in place, and there was discussion of the second phase of the project that was not handled properly. We felt I drafted a letter to the applicants stating this. They came back to us and they asked for a little more time to get back to us. That time has expired and we have not had any correspondence. So, and again, I'll ask council to follow my comments before we go around the table. But basically, I'm in approval of letting the applicants know that their application is considered incomplete, and the applicants would have to file a new application to move things forward here. Well, go ahead, council. I'll let you pick it up from there, council. I don't want to misspeak on this.
All right. As we discussed at the last time this came up, and we sent a letter out, and I'm trying to find my copy, but I think I have filed it somehow in one of these other files. But the letter went out beginning of October asking for the applicant to provide a basis for the board to find that there was a reason why that this application should be bifurcated, because secret does not allow for bifurcation unless there is a basis to do so. Provided to them the case law that requires that applications be complete in order to go forward with secret. We received absolutely no response, as the chair said. So without having any explanation or any reasons given, and I believe our discussion before the board, we didn't see any, there wasn't any reason that the board was aware of without input from the applicant, then we don't meet the SECRA requirements that a complete application go forward. And SECRA is kind of stalled with that. And at this point, what I'm looking for is a board decision or a board consensus that this application, with the new information raised in the draft EIS, that there is a second phase to this project, that it is in fact incomplete and should be returned back to status as incomplete and not ready to move forward for board action.
Okay, thank you, council. Board members, Roy, you want to start us off?
I mean, I don't know what to add to that, Mr. Chairman. I would agree with that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
We can add to that, you know.
No, yeah, you don't have to. If you just agree, I know it's one of those things. Terry?
No, I agree with that, but what does that mean then?
Yeah.
What that means is that just as with an application that is submitted to the board for consideration, the planning department goes through it, makes sure that there's all the items that are necessary to process the application are there. If they're not, then the board.
Yeah, no, I get what incomplete means, but
so that it goes back to that status.
Is there any penalty associated with that? I believe is what we're asking.
What's that?
Yeah, what does that mean? As a result, there's a, you know.
It's as if they don't have an active application before this board.
Okay.
So they're going back to square one.
Back to square one,
right?
Which is to get rid of the.
That means any kind
of cubes and the stuff they have there now.
Right.
On the property.
I believe the board has been presented with information from the planning department that the current structures, temporary geocubes, no longer have a current emergency approval. And as
we're back to that. Okay.
Fully agree with that.
Yeah, so basically they're in violation. This brings them back to being.
So that means they have no basis to maintain those temporary structures. They have no authority under the town to maintain those temporary structures.
Okay.
So currently they would be in violation because there's no permit for what they have there.
That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay,
Council.
so there'll be some other action happening.
Not by this board until the application is complete, but there may be other agencies within the town may take action. I can't think.
Right. Tim?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's go for it.
Okay. Okay, thank you all. Was that good enough, Nancy Lynn? We all
Yeah,
agree with that?
we'll work with you to get a letter out.
Yeah.
Well, basically, it's a letter that it's incomplete, but we'll be specific in it so that it's clear.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you. And I guess we can always circulate that letter. I could circulate that before it goes out to the board if they're interested. Council, that's fine, right?
Sure, there's no problem with that. Yep.
Right. And Brian, of course, will be a part of that that review. Okay, thank you, Council. Next, we have one modification, and this is McPherson at 139 DeForest Road, tax map number 300-32-6-3, and this is a modification of a detached garage, swimming pool, and pool house. And Tyler is going to, Tyler still, he is still with us.
Yep.
He's been hanging in there.
That I have.
Tyler, if you please, thank you.
Sure. So this is what was approved by the board back in 2016. Lisa DeAndre was the planner at that time. So what they got approved was for a swimming pool down here to the south, a pool house with like a covered patio and this like a covered, it's just, there's dirt, there's grass under there. It was like a lattice structure above. And they got this large clubhouse, which was a sort of a historic structure that burned down that they were trying to rebuild. And then they had a proposed garage. When I went to go do the CO inspection, it was not exactly what was approved. And this is an as-built survey. So you can see the pool's in the same relative location, has moved slightly, but the pool house and covered patio moved to the north side of the swimming pool. Not a huge change. Setbacks haven't changed at all. And the garage is in the same location. The elevation drawings of the garage have changed, but that doesn't really impact the board at all, since the setbacks have all remained the same. And the clubhouse has not been constructed, and I don't know if it will be or not. But as far as it stands right now, in order to get a CO, they need a modification to allow the pool and the pool house to remain in their current locations and for the garage to remain as it was built, which is really just a change in the building plans, no change in setbacks or anything.
Tyler, quick question. What is that, the brick wall there? Is that remnants of the former clubhouse?
That was there. Yeah, that was there on this as well. The clubhouse was here.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was just a retaining wall, just a retaining wall.
Yeah.
Type structure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can see the change down here from that to that.
Yeah. Terry, comments?
I'm going to let Ed comment first. Ed probably is more familiar with that property.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Ed?
I don't know why I'm more familiar with it, Terry.
Oh, no? Okay. I lied. Did you not? No, I mean, it sounds innocuous enough as far as the changes as Tyler described it. Is that house there?
Yes,
it's a small residence. Yeah, it's
it is there.
House
Okay.
is still there.
That's one of the. Is this one of the Seven Sister houses?
The clubhouse that they were proposing to build was the clubhouse for that sort of association that's part of.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's what that purpose of it was to rebuild that historic structure, but that hasn't occurred.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm okay with the modification as described by Tyler. Ed?
Yeah, well, I'm okay with the modification. I'm not familiar with the project.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not either. But
I'm okay with it too.
Can I just ask a clarification question of Tyler? So they're looking for a modification to for as-built modification of the survey or modification of the building plans?
The survey.
Okay, so the building plans for those are still valid or they changed?
Let me see if we got, I don't believe we got changed building plans, but let me double check.
Okay, I just want to.
I know we did
put in there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, now this is coming back to me, Tyler. I recall when this was the very exacting drawings of the clubhouse where they had counted up the brick courses and the shingles. Is that correct, right?
Yeah, that was Bob Hefner.
Right.
Yeah, Bob Hefner did this. I was just
amazing detailed.
That was back. I started back in 2014. I think that was.
Yeah.
back then, I recall this, it's kind of a shame. It really would have been a wonderful thing, but maybe they will do that in the future.
Yeah, I don't have any building plans with me, but I'll double check and get you that information if they have.
Thank you. Yeah, I just
want to
want
have them in the office and I forgot them.
Thank you. Let's see, who has not commented here? Tim?
I haven't, and I'm good with it.
Okay, and Roy?
I'm good.
Okay, and I'm fine with this as well. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, we're gonna table the minutes until next week. Kyle will have those for us. And I have to say, he's done an excellent job trying to get up to speed on his first week. So we'll give him a 1 week pass on the minutes. Next, we have 3 adoptions of resolutions. The first one is Gregory Buhay at 15 Jackson Road in Montauk, tax map number 300-87-3-3 for this new residence. And this is in board member Berger and Johans. Montauk, if you two want to take this over, please.
Okay, I don't have it in front of me, but if you remember, well, I'll do
I
it.
can pull it up.
Greg Buhay, it's 15 Jackson Road in Montauk. This was a redevelopment of the property, and it was an NRSP application. There were no variances required. If you recall, the wetlands were across the road and quite a distance away, and only part of the house was in jurisdiction. This was a unanimous approval by the board. I don't know that I have anything else to say.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I make it's not a motion.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Oh, it is. Okay, so I make a motion for Gregory Buhay, 15 Jackson Road in Montauk, tax map 300-87-3-3, to approve the resolution as written.
Second.
Hey, got that?
Sure.
Okay.
And I concur as well. Ed? I'm sorry, Ed?
I was not part of that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, next, thank you, board members. Terry, thank you. Next, we'll move on to Eric Pettigrew is the applicant, and this is at 9 Private Road in Springs, tax map number 300-120-1-8. And as you recall, this was to construct a 2-story 1,920 square foot residence, 400 square foot of shed, sanitary system, driveway, etc. And this was heard on August 25th. And this is in board member Delene's district. Roy, if you would, please.
Sure. This was, if you remember, this was the house that was designed for an energy efficiency layout. We all approved this application in unanimous. So I'm making a motion to approve the application of 9 Private Road Springs, tax map number 300-120-1-8.1 as written.
Second.
Concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Roy. Okay, finally, we have Plata Day LLC at 254 Old Montauk Highway, tax map number 300-87-3-3. And this is in Montauk's, in Terry's district. This goes way back, as you recall, and this is the steps, the pool separation. Terry, you want to pick it up from there, please?
Yeah, we got this was Joel Halsey, and we did receive the document showing the updated, survey showing the steps being cut back to 4-foot width on the property to get the separation between the house and the pool. And this was a unanimous approval by the board.
Just to clarify, this is a modification.
A modification.
It was a modification, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, modification for the width of the steps based on the new interpretation by the building department for the separation.
It's the separation between the 2 decks, the pool deck and the other, and then so that the actual modification is to put the 5-foot separation between the pool deck and the roof deck.
Okay. The 5-foot modification
Yeah, that's
between
okay.
the
You're
pool
good.
deck and the deck. Okay. And we did get the updated documentation from the agent, and so in the matter of Plata Day LLC, 254 Old Montauk Highway, tax map 300-87-3-3. Make a motion to approve the resolution, the modification as written.
Second.
I was recused.
Oh, yeah. And Ed, I don't think Ed was part of this originally.
Did Ed vote?
Or the modification.
On the mod?
I was part of
Yeah, on
the
the
modification.
modification.
Yeah, he was
Go
part, he
ahead,
was part of the mod.
Yes,
Ed. Yeah, he was.
on the modification.
Exactly.
And I concur.
Thank you, Ed. I concur as well. Okay. Okay, thank you all. Council, anything else on your end?
Oh, I hope not. No.
Well, I have to say, board members, we hung in there, almost a 4-hour meeting. Thank you very much. We got a lot done. It's kind of nice to get all of this stuff off of our plates so you can have a big plate on Thanksgiving Day.
Do we get a week off as a result of
week
that?
off.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Oh, well,
I
thank
don't. You
very
do.
much.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you all, and I hope you all have a nice Thanksgiving, and we will see you after the holiday. And again, Kyle, welcome on board. Thanks for all your work this week, and that's Lynn, you as well. And the planning department always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to
Oh, yes.
close
Oh, we
zoning board
close
of
it.
appeals hearing and work session for Tuesday, November 17th at 10:16 PM.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
And I concur. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you.
I was about to leave the meeting.
See ya.
Long
Take
You have
again.
to come back tomorrow.